We are live. Greetings out there, everyone in the chat, and who's going to tune into the replays. Another episode of Comics with Curmudgeons with my good buddy Doc, who, well, like me, epitomizes the curmudgeon life.
Absolutely.
So, Doc, how you doing, man?
I am wonderful. I am happy to be here again. It's nice to do this periodically, and I'm especially happy that Aaron's with us tonight.
Indeed. Today we have a special guest, thanks to Doc reaching out, and that would be the one, the only, Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. It's the one, the only, because no one else would ever claim to be me. So, I get that level of exclusivity.
I think we all do at this point.
Yeah, we were seeing whether or not Pele was going to join us tonight, but I think he had something come up. But maybe if we get lucky, he shows up a little later.
Yep, I actually reached out to 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser as well, but Thursdays tend to be a busy night for that man.
Is he changing his name now? Is he like Nick Weiser?
There was a joke on the Monday night stream he was on. He should change his name to the 32 Flavors of Nickolobe.
I like that. I like that better, actually.
So
I think that works.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's amazing what happens when the legion of memers are sitting in your channel.
Oh yeah.
So today is me and Doc have talked multiple times about various different topics, and a lot of times we fall into the mutant side of things, as we're both X-Men fans. Today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to talk about your friendly neighborhood spider menace, SpiderMan.
Get me pictures of SpiderMan
in the shower. What?
For me, I gotta say, I think Spider-Man is probably the third superhero I was introduced to as a young kid. First being Batman because of the 60s Batman show. I call it syndication reruns of that. And then the other would be Superman because of the Christopher Reeves movies.
I knew that I liked girls when I first saw Yvonne Craig in the Batgirl suit. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I was like, there's something about this.
Yes. Like my pants got tight. I can't tell why.
I'm walking kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny is that I got to actually meet her, much later, obviously, before she passed, and I bought like her autobiography, and even as a grandma, just what a sharp wit, and just what a delightful woman she was.
You know what? It's a woman I never got a chance to meet. I would have loved to meet her. I'm one of those people that when I go to like a convention or anything, I kind of steer clear of the celebrities because generally I'm like, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. But that's one I would have made an exception for. But I don't know if she ever came to any of the shows in Pittsburgh that I went to.
I want to say it was a WonderCon, maybe the last one where they were in San Francisco. I remember I met her and I met the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, most of the people I've met have been metal musicians over the years. A couple pro wrestlers here and there.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. It is. I understand Doc's point about like you kind of avoid the celebrity area a lot of the times because a lot of times it is kind of sad. You'll get like the table of like Playboy bunnies and they've got their pictures from like 30 years earlier on the table, and you're like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah, you're like, I'm 40 and I kind of wanted to bang you when I was a teenager and it's kind of weird now. Yeah. No. And you're did you ever do anything after that? Like was that your crowning achievement? Did you peak at that point? And that's kind of sad. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, were you and you're just desperately trying to, you're like, were you on maybe like a sci-fi show that I know or something that would like justify you being here at this con? Like it's just kind of it feels so awkward, and it's also weird to me when people are trying to sell me their nudes off of a table. Like it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's
a little awkward. So Justin here brings up, well, Spider-Man's being forced into the mutant side of things, so you are still good. What?
Oh yeah, you didn't see the
no.
What is it? The astonishing? No, it's
Uncanny Spider-Man.
The Uncanny Spider-Man, but it looks like he's possibly another one of Sinister's chimeras because he's got Nightcrawler feet. and hands.
Okay.
So he's got like the 3-finger thing, and and he's wearing the black costume, but with the red logo, like the original design that Jim Shooter bought for like $300 off some fanboy. And that dude got ripped off so bad. Yeah, they're doing that. They announced that during their Fall of X panel.
You know what? You know what the Marvel Universe really needs is another Spider-Man.
Oh
We
yeah,
don't have nearly enough of good job, Marvel. The House of Idea.
yeah. Yeah, it's just at this point it's just the House of Idea singular, which is
a house of recycled ideas. TM at that.
But it's not even really recycled ideas, because all it is that is the idea, the single idea. Recycle everything. I mean, great. I guess it's good for the planet because you don't have to use energy to think more.
Yeah, I mean that's the Dan Slott, right? Like, just steal Sentry's origin and attach it to Spider-Boy, a name from a character from the Amalgam universe. Which I'm still wondering how they got away from that or got away with that, because I'm pretty sure that like there were some weird agreements in order to do those Amalgam characters. Like, are they going to just bring out a Dark Claw character now too that Dan can rip the origin off from somebody else? And by the way, I say that because Spider-Verse was a lot better when it was called Crisis on Infinite Darkwings.
Yeah, it kind of really was. It was also better whenever they did it in that issue of the Exiles, where there was just like every different incarnation of Wolverine from all over time and every alternate reality, and they had an entire team of Wolverines, and it was like 50 of them, and that was amusing for one issue.
And like Alan Davis was doing that stuff in Excalibur, where they were jumping from universe to universe, and you'd see like a ridiculous universe of like all Wolverines or all like, oh, what if everybody was Spider-Man? You'd kind of see that. So it's like there's nothing new being brought to the table, and there's not even any new wrinkles on things being brought to the table.
You did bring up Dan Slott, though. I feel like he is there's a new physics law. It's Slott's law. It's the law of conservation of mental energy. He just doesn't use it. Ever.
Well, when you've got 20 minutes to turn in your script and you haven't started it yet, you just start grabbing things.
Because you've been eating Cheetos, banging on the keyboard on Twitter, and probably playing Tetris.
Well, no, you're not going to get him on Twitter anymore. Do you see? He's taking away all that free content to punish Elon Musk for taking away his blue check mark.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he'll be back in about a week.
Oh yeah, no, he can't stand it. But what I love about it is I almost tweeted out that he's the Brad Wesley of Twitter. And if you guys remember the movie Roadhouse, Brad Wesley is like, because he was telling Elon Musk, I bring people to this platform. So it's like, JCPenney is coming here because of me. That's how like I felt that.
If anybody's coming to Twitter for Dan Slott, it's to mock him.
Well, and then they're all blocked by him once they get there. They're like pre-blocked. So, it's like, what? He's got 160,000 followers, and 100K of those are blocked.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
That actually is a good question. Do you still count as a follower after you're blocked? Like if you follow and then he blocks you, do you still count there? Because I don't even know if you can unfollow at that point.
Yeah, no. Once you're blocked, you can't unfollow and you can't block them. So, and part of the reason that he does it is because then he gets to go peek in on his Twitter enemies. And what a ridiculous concept that is! Like, my Twitter enemies. Oh, grow up, But like he gets to go peek in and see if they're talking about him, and then he can go back behind his block wall and talk shit.
Yeah.
The life of an insecure, lazy fat man.
Slotto Blocktavius.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but no, I mean, we're doing this Spider-Man thing all summer now. So we're doing our summer of symbiotes, because what we really need is more
symbiote stories.
Symbiotes, where they're all literally just palette swapped venoms.
You haven't seen the X-Men as symbiotes yet, though, have you? Get ready for a new cover program.
Yeah, well, no, they did that. There was the Venomized month back in the around 2010, and actually there's a couple of X-Men Venomized covers. I think they were Gabriel Dell'Otto that actually command a decent amount of money still on the back market. There's one that I still don't have. It's one of the few books that I need for my complete X-Men, including variants and reprints, because I can't fundamentally justify it to myself to pay the asking price.
No, and you figure the way things are going, it'll probably come down in the future if it's not like a key. Like you'll find it cheaper. You just got to wait it out. Like when the books come out and it's like 1 in 1,000, and you could pay like $1,000 for it. But if you just bide your time, like you can find it for 300 if you really want it.
Oh, I did that with my the Uncanny 500, the Dodson and the Turner sketch covers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can, but those Venomized ones, I mean, I think they're still around $100, and I just can't justify a random issue of X-Men for a variant.
Yeah, when you figure you could like go to a con and get like a piece of original art, like you could get an original sketch from an artist for $100 or a little bit more.
Yeah,
it is hard to justify that on something that's mass produced.
Absolutely. And then we're getting Spider-Boy. I mean, well, first of all, this whole Death of Spider-Verse thing, exactly how is it a Death of Spider-Verse if the whole point of it is to introduce more Spider-Men?
Yeah. Because they're going to beat it to death like a dead horse. Like it's just, that's what it is. It's the Death of Spider-Verse, because by the end of it, you'll be like, I don't ever want to read about this again.
That horse has already been beaten to death, turned into glue. That glue dried out, and it's now just crusty stuff.
Oh man, remember Sun Spider?
Yeah, I mean that there's a character that really stuck around. What was the wait, was Sun Spider the T. Franklin one?
Yeah,
or which one was the one that was so gay it put eyelashes on the spider costume, on the Spider-Man eyes?
Webweaver.
Yeah, the fashion designer Spider-Man that is still somehow connected to Aunt May. We don't know why.
What's kind of funny is I play Marvel Strike Force. It's just a little iOS game that you can kill some time with, and they introduced a Spider-Verse variant that's like a Native American woman, and actually like her powers are really kind of cool, and she's got like these cool totems. It's like better than any of these ridiculous Spider-Man variants they've introduced in the comics. And I'm like, man, I'd much rather read about that character than any of these ones that we're getting, especially the just the sheer stupidity of the Sun Spider with the whole idea of a secret identity, but you're in a wheelchair and you're the only person at this dance that's in a wheelchair. And then Doc Ock attacks, and Spider-Man shows up with a wheelchair
and
looks
crutches,
just like yours, strapped to your back, and crutches that have web shooters in them, and is swinging around, and nobody goes, "Oh man, look, a superhero with a wheelchair. I should tell my friend. Hey, where'd my friend go?" Nobody draws that parallel. Like wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm all about suspension of disbelief, but sometimes it's how far they want you to go over that line of disbelief is.
There's a difference between suspension of disbelief and suspension of mental retardation.
Yeah,
that's where you've crossed that line.
Yeah, there's another moment in there that's perhaps even dumber, where Sun Spider lands on a manhole cover and drives it down inside the manhole, which is not how manholes work. No. But then throws it back out like a frisbee. Yeah, and it's like, how did any of this happen? Like you didn't have the artist show that the ground broke around it and like created a wider, you have to, if you're gonna do that, you have to logically work out how that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, all they have to do is literally, now granted, this is T. Franklin, and the likelihood that she has ever even seen an open manhole cover in her life is very, very slim. But literally, just Google, what does an open manhole cover look like? Yeah. And that you can see that there's this big metal collar around the outside that the disc sits on top of. And although I do have to say, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles very, very, very poorly prepared me for the weight of a goddamn manhole cover. Those things are fucking heavy.
Yeah, you can't just like push it up and move it aside, move it aside really easily. I guess maybe unless you're a mutant, because they are really heavy.
And every movie where they're like climbing out of the sewer and they just kind of like push that thing up a little bit to peek out. Yeah, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody should be struggling with that the way Natalie Portman was struggling on stage holding Mjolnir.
Yes.
It's like they hand it to her and she's like, oh.
It's like this is a plastic prop. Bitch, go to the gym. Seriously.
You probably weighed like 5 to 7 pounds tops.
We'll just CG your arms. Honestly, though, you know what? I'm not going to rag on Natalie Portman, because like if you got that script, would you be like, I'm going to spend 8 months in the gym for this?
Yeah.
No, just CG me. You're lucky I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although at the same time, they did waste the time to CG her arms, but they had to put Chris Hemsworth in a fat suit because they didn't want to CG his arms in Endgame because he had lost all that weight to go do Men in Black International and watch that thing crap out at the box office. All that muscle mass just went away to go do that movie. And when it came time to film Endgame, he's like, yeah, I'm a stick, guys. You didn't give me enough time to go to the gym.
Yeah. So, no problem. We'll make you fat and depressed.
Yes.
And then Aaron will feel represented. What's interesting, just since you brought up, I know we're getting way into the weeds here.
Welcome to one of my streams.
Yeah. And, but did you guys see they just dropped the trailer for Extraction 2 with Chris Hemsworth?
No.
And there's just this absolutely, like, most of the trailer is him in like a prison yard in a riot and fighting his way through it, and it's just amazing. And I was like watching, and it's directed by the Russo brothers.
Okay.
And I was and written by one of them, and I was watching it, and I was like, man, if this was Captain America fighting his way through a yard like this, or even Thor on a battlefield, with a bunch of trolls and God knows what, fighting his way through with this kind of intensity, how great would it be? And how stupid is Marvel Studios for letting these guys go and handing Phase 4 off to a bunch of no talent hacks?
Yeah, a bunch of people with whose IMDb profile is a question mark and devoid of credits. I mean, look, when your actors or when your directors don't even have a picture on IMDb, you don't hire them for $1 billion franchise. I'm sorry. I feel that Marvel Studios, Kevin, look, I know you're not listening, but if you happen to stumble across this, just some basic business 101 stuff. If you can't even get somebody with a photo on IMDb, don't hire them. It's not a high bar to reach. But no, well, you know what? That's the one thing I will give credit to Taika Waititi in Ragnarok. The fight scene at the end on the Rainbow Bridge with Thor kicking the shit out of all those guys was a pretty dope fight scene.
Yeah, that was pretty epic.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. Of course, he didn't write that movie, so he was kind of like constrained.
Yes.
Whereas it seems like there's directors that can do an okay job when they're constrained, but when you leave them to their devices, much like Patty Jenkins, perfectly fine directing Wonder Woman 1984, but you give her complete control, or perfectly fine with the first Wonder Woman, but then you give her complete control and you get Wonder Woman 1984, which was just a mess from start to finish.
To make a wrestling reference here, it's essentially unfettered Vince Russo.
Oh yeah.
That's what half of Hollywood
unfettered
is.
Vince McMahon.
Oh yeah,
come on, bro.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's unfettered Vince Russo. When he was constrained by Vince, and when he would constrain Vince's own crazy, back in the 90s, that's when you made some magic. Their crazy kind of bounced off one another, and you ended up with a pretty good direction. But once both of them got free from one another, that's when it all went to hell. So, and that's half of Hollywood directors, especially once they reach a level where they're like David Fincher or Nolan. You know, when they feel like, when Hollywood starts treating them like that, and producers don't feel like they can tell them no anymore, yeah, that's when you get some crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, and you see it in comic books too, is when Bendis got to a point where nobody could tell him no anymore, and he desperately needed to be told no. I mean, sometimes you need that. You need strong editorial. Even when I write something, even my creator-owned book that I'm writing, I'm still going to hand that off to 3 or 4 people to read before I finalize it, because you want an extra pair of eyes on that. When you're that close to the work, you've got a lot of blind spots, so you can miss plot holes. You can miss things that maybe you didn't build up properly, and people are like, wait, I don't understand how this happened, because it's all in your head and you understand how it's happening, but if you're not communicating that, it doesn't work for the reader. So yeah, I think everybody needs some oversight, when they're creating things, if only to plug holes that you might not see.
I mean, my thought on it is I don't disagree that there's a lot of ego going on. But I think back and I wonder, how many movies did it take, for example, Steven Spielberg to start getting an ego where he couldn't be told no anymore? I don't know, or did that come from just like, well, he just made these big movies that did really well, E.T., Close Encounters, etc. And did he actually have that ego, or is he still doing in that creative mindset where some of these newer directors, it's like they have 1 or 2 pretty good outings, in the theater, and their ego swells up to where they think they're Lucas or Spielberg or Scorsese. It's like, you made 2 good comic book movies. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Well, oftentimes it's not even, they didn't even make good movies that did well in the box office. They made a movie that a bunch of fawning weirdos loved at a film festival and decided to give them an award for.
Yeah.
That's as far as it gets before they're like, I am George Lucas. Doesn't even take that. Look at the director of Blue Beetle, like, coming out and yelling at fans and things like that and causing problems until the point that it looks like WB told him to shut his social media down because he's actively damaging the film. It's like, and that guy has like no resume to hang his hat on. But he's out there acting like he's better than everybody who's commenting to him. It's the kind of ego that just destroys projects now, with social media. We get to see these people for the small, petty, vindictive people that they are, instead of like kind of having them up on a pedestal as these creatives. And it ruins the project. With Lucas, we know now with the original Star Wars films that, Maria Lucas basically edited the first film and made it coherent. The second film, he had a fantastic director, Irvin Kershner, who made Empire so great. And then Return of the Jedi, he had Richard Marquand, who, by all accounts was kind of a weak director, and Lucas kind of stepped in. And that's why it's considered, I think, one of the weakest of the original trilogy. But when you got to the second trilogy and Lucas wanted to hire real, actual directors again, it was actually Spielberg who convinced him, no, you got to get back up on that horse. And Lucas was just miserable being a director at that point. Like, he even says in one interview, like, I say faster and more intense, and I just sit there looking miserable, So, I don't think that he's a guy who really enjoyed the craft of directing actors. I think he was more a guy who liked the big ideas and going in and having a bunch of designers who were designing things and going in and adding tweaks to those. I had a friend, Nate Watson, who worked at Lucasfilm. And he worked on that Detour show that never came out, but there were a lot of ship designs and things like that he was working on. And he said, one of the great things about George is George would come in every week and spend a few minutes with every artist looking over what they'd done that week. And he goes, and that guy couldn't draw. He goes, but with a couple simple pencil lines, he could communicate like what he wanted. He'd be like, okay, take the ship and add like this and this and this. And then I think you'll have something. And, my friend Nate said, damned if he wasn't right. Like, I'd look at what he did and I'd be like, oh yeah, I can get behind that and I can do it. So I think that was his strength, and directing necessarily wasn't. With Spielberg's so good that I think his downfall was just becoming a schmaltzy old geezer. Yeah. Like when everything kind of to get like kind of every movie was like sentimental. When I saw AI, and then you got that tacked on ending, like the kids at the bottom of the ocean, and that should be the end of his quest, because in effect, he's become a real person in that his quest ended
the way that it would for a real person. But instead, Spielberg can't have that. He's got to tack on the happy sci-fi ending where some aliens come down and grant him his wish for a day, and it's kind of ridiculous and kind of undercuts the whole movie. I was really surprised in War of the Worlds when he actually had Tom Cruise kill Tim Robbins. Like, I was like, I didn't think he had the balls for that anymore. And then you got to the end of the movie, and the son that went over the hill where all the explosions happened, he survived and just magically made his way back to the house. So it's a happy ending. So again, it was that schmaltziness that came in, just like Indiana Jones, the movie that doesn't exist, where at the end, it's like knowledge was their treasure. And you're like, oh, get out of here with that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, the way that fucking Last Crusade ended with everybody, like the bad guys dying, all the treasure being lost forever, and them just being like, well, all right, I guess we're going back to fucking work.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's going back to the retirement home. I'm going back to Harvard. There's your movie.
Yeah, I'm going back to teach, and you know what? There's some video games and some novels where I have continued adventures, and there's the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles if you really want to see me as an old man. But otherwise, this is where it ends, and it was perfect. It was a perfect trilogy. It should have ended there, and now we're gonna get a fifth film where none of those people are involved.
Wanted to say hail to my buddy Joe's Atmosphere. You usually see me and him annoying the living crap out of that 70s rock fan on his Monday stream that's only talk and roll. And also go check out his comic book that he's been working on, The Privateer. Shaping up to be some pretty cool stuff coming from Joe. So give him a follow on YouTube as well as Twitter. Hell of a guy. Good dude.
Rad.
Yeah. I only surround myself with the best. So
it's so great that so many people are doing like their own comic books now. I freaking love it. It's every time, like I'm a little bummed out because I keep seeing like all these crowdfunders, and I'm like, I have to stop myself because I'm like, you can't support every single one. You have to stop somewhere. But there's so many good ones out there, and it's like all this talent that at one point, Marvel and DC would have had probably chomping at the bit to work for them, and now there's just no incentive to do that.
And we have the man with the most awesome name of them all, Maxiel Von Priestley, sitting in the chat. If
MVP!
MVP, if you want to hop on, you're more than welcome. If you got the time. Same with you, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, come join us.
Absolutely. It's always good to just have a bunch of, I don't even care if anybody ever watches. Just sitting around and bullshitting with people is absolutely the fucking highlight of my week. And
yeah, it's like getting together for drinks at the bar, except none of us have to leave our house.
Yes, because we're all old and we're like, I don't want to go anywhere.
Although it's gonna be teenagers out there, they're gonna make fun of our trousers for not being fashionable.
And none of the bars, there's like 2 bars around me anymore that I can fucking smoke in. So fuck that.
And you go to a bar and then you're like, I had 2 beers. Why is this bill $40?
Oh yeah. God, yeah. Well, thankfully in Pittsburgh,
drinking with me.
Well, in Pittsburgh, thankfully, the bars where I actually can smoke, they're the ones that I'm still only paying like $2.50 for a beer.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you're out in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You ever run into Neon? You ever go to any of the like toy shows or anything like that show up out there? And
you know what? Not really, because he goes to a lot of the it's Steel City Con.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that show because it's so not a comic book show. It's one that used to be in the Palace Inn, the Palace Inn's ballroom back in the day, and then when MurderCon ended, because Michael George got arrested for the murder of his first wife back in Detroit.
Oh my God! Wait, now I need to know more about this. But keep going. But I want to circle back.
Okay, yeah, I will tell this story. So they moved it to like the big convention center out in that area, and it just never felt right. It was too small. It was too nerd flea market.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really. It didn't feel like a Comic Con, and I'm not talking like a Wizard World or Wonder Con or any like that level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking like more of your like kind of traditional. You walk around and there's vendors there's like 60, 70 comic vendors. You got mostly comic pros in your joint. There's a handful of like big names, a number of like kind of mid-card talent, and then you have your locals and your indie creators and stuff like that. It wasn't that. It went for the total like pop culture flea market vibe, where there's people selling, McDonald's fucking Happy Meal toys from the 1980s, and like there's the fudge lady, and there's some guy trying to sell me a metal roof and gutters. Like, I'm really confused on why they're here. And there's always a handful of knife guys at those real comic cons. If the knife guy's there, as much as I appreciate him, unless he's selling like fucking replica batleths, and that's what he's there selling, like replica pop culture prop stuff. If he's just there selling the pocket knife, you could buy it on fucking Amazon for $11. Why is he there?
I was at one of those little shows where J. Michael Straczynski showed up and started grabbing a guy at his table, had a bunch of like prop weapons, and he had some Babylon 5 stuff that he'd made. And J. Michael Straczynski started grabbing it and like having an attack, saying that he was like, this is like, he owned all this stuff, and it was all it was all his, because it was all Babylon 5 props, and this guy had no right to sell it. And the cops actually came out and basically backed him the hell off, like telling him that you may own the intellectual property, but you don't own the physical property. That's this guy's stuff, and you need to like give it back to him. It was just, I can't remember if it was like at the Shrine in LA, which is like this really low rent show that we had for a long time. You'd have the guys show up with just boxes and boxes of Playboys, and people selling records. Yeah, just that exact kind of like flea market kind of atmosphere. It's like you can't get enough people to show up, so you just take anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not enough like comic vendors. But like Pittsburgh it was Pittsburgh Comic Con, and that was considered a pretty big show. Like, it was, this is before New York Comic Con existed. But it was kind of rivaling at the time Wizard World, because Wizard World was a lot smaller. There was fewer shows, and now it ended up bought up by Wizard World a number of years later because of the whole MurderCon thing. So I'll explain that. All right, so it was started by a comic shop owner in Pittsburgh that had moved here from Detroit. He owned a comic shop in Detroit. His wife mysteriously was murdered. He was having an affair at the time, and she ends up dead. He's the prime suspect because it's the husband, I guess. But they don't have any charge. They don't have any evidence to pin on him. So like a year later, he basically packs up, moves with the woman he was having the affair with, marries her, moves to Pittsburgh, and opens a shop here. And I don't remember the name of the shop, but he also started Pittsburgh Comic Con. His name was Michael George. And he ran that show every year, and it was a great show. Like, Michael Turner was there literally every year. George Perez was always there. At like the height of their popularity, both Michael Avon Oeming and Bendis were there. I bought a bunch of original art over the years from Talent Caldwell because he was always there. And so it was a great show. It would have like the bootleg movie guys.
Oh yeah.
I love the bootleg movie guys. That
are great.
Yeah, that would have like obscure European versions, like extended cuts. It's how they got the Corman. Like that was the guy. If you ever wanted the Corman, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, that's the guy you have to buy it off of. The Gen 13 movie that was supposed to be the animated, like the start of that animated series, but never got picked up, and that kind of almost bankrupted Wildstorm to make. all that stuff. All those guys were always there, and I got a lot of great books. And then they had to move, but there was also some like rumors floating around, and then they missed a year where they didn't do a show, and it was kind of weird. And then they had it the following year, but it was at a different time of year, and it wasn't quite as good. And then the news hit that apparently the detective that had been investigating the murder of his wife up in Detroit never really dropped the investigation. It was like 17, 18 years later. And, it's murder, so there's no statute of limitations.
Right.
And he got charged. I'm pretty sure he ended up getting found guilty. I'm not certain how it worked. I know he went to jail for a while. I don't know if he's still in jail. His wife, like the new wife, took over the show, ran it for one more year, and then sold all to Wizard. And it started getting the nickname of MurderCon because it was owned by a guy that ended up as a convicted murderer.
Okay, I thought he was actually running. I thought he actually killed somebody, and he was running, and then he was running a con called MurderCon that was about like, horror movies or something like that.
Oh no!
I was gonna make the joke when you couldn't remember his comic store name. I was gonna say like, I murdered my wife, comics and collectibles. He was just really just like rubbing it.
I thought at first it was like a horror con too, because we have a big one by me in New Jersey called ChillerCon.
Oh.
Yeah. And you could see somebody calling something like MurderCon, and you could even see it being like a true crime thing where a bunch of podcasters come in. It's tasteless, but you could see it. You can see it happening.
Now that I think about it, I kind of want to start that. I mean, hey, if you want to pick up women, true crime podcast convention, probably going to be a great way. Now, granted, they might murder you. They probably have more red flags than fucking Talladega, but
now, do they want to murder you? Like the type of woman that goes to that con, does she want to murder you or does she want to be murdered? Like, that's kind of the thing, is it's like this woman that married him after he murdered his first wife. Like, what did she know? Like, when they were together, he was like, "Don't worry, I'm going to murder her, and then we'll be together." And she was like, "Right on." Like,
I get I got the distinct impression there wasn't a lot of coverage locally on it because the case was back in Detroit, and I could never really. It was in that era where news was still fighting against the newspapers were still fighting against being online all the time. So, and they didn't really archive much. And I've never looked it up again, but yeah, so I think it did end up as a pretty big news story up there. It was when it happened. And then whenever he got charged, I heard that it was a real big news story back up there. And so but I think I got the distinct impression from some of the articles that the wife might have been an accomplice.
Yeah.
But I don't think she ever got charged or anything.
It's so weird because there's those women that'll write letters to murderers and fall in love with guys in prison, and so it's not unheard of. You can draw some real
derail the conversation that's already a derail, but want to welcome MVP. Thanks for joining us, man.
Dude, yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I don't think we've actually been on a stream yet together, so it's a pleasure.
No, we have not. And the first time for everything, and let's hope, good impressions and all that.
Oh, absolutely, man. I hold these two gentlemen in high regard. Maybe not this one, but this one.
I'm kind of a dick.
But no, it's good to see you two guys too. Other than on Comics Aficionados and all that stuff. But I saw the tweet earlier today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be fun." And then I looked at my watch, and I was like, "Oh."
Dude, I completely lost track of time too, and ended up 5 minutes late.
What is a YouTuber if not late?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, absolutely. So, but you guys had mentioned earlier just about it's like grabbing beers with your friends, except you don't have to leave the house.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. I will say though, Doc, there was a bar in Texas that I went to in college that still allowed you to smoke, and it was awesome. It was like just classic, good old. I half expected Wolverine to be at the bar with me, just with a full pint, just hunched over. But yeah, man, I don't know.
Cigar. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, you can still find them. It's just really, really tough to actually look for.
Not up here in New York, you can't.
In Harris County, in Texas, it's almost completely banned. But if you get outside of Houston into the more rural, like north of the Woodlands, I think there's still some bars. I was in one a while back that still allowed smoking. I mean, it's been it's probably like 2-3 years since I was there, and I could still smoke in that bar. And there was a hockey bar that was very strange to find a hockey bar in Houston that allowed me to smoke. They did have a table and a penalty box too, so that was kind of dope.
This is nice. We kind of got like an A team here, except that Max, you're multi-classing as the looks and the bronze, the looks and the muscle. So I guess Doc and I are both wild cards.
Yes.
Never have too many of those.
You were too kind.
Have you ever seen the Always Sunny when they're talking about that, like the A team model, and they tell D like, and you're the useless chick, it's the A team,
Yeah.
And then at the end, Charlie's like the wild card, and he like ruins their whole plan, and they're like, why would you even have a wild card? That's such a stupid idea.
They're like, yeah, they're all in the van because like I think Dennis is the guy who makes the plans, Mac is the muscle, Charlie's the wild card, and he cuts the brakes for the van, so the van's just out of control, and he's like, wild card, bitches, and just hops out of the van. So,
sounds about right.
Yeah, they just got a bunch of open containers of gasoline because their scheme they're gonna buy gas cheap and like store it in barrels and then wait till the price went up and then sell it to people.
And then resell it. Yeah.
That show is something special.
Oh, absolutely.
What kind of special? That's up to each individual person who watches it, but
yeah,
it does range from wow, that was kind of awesome to wow, that was some seriously short bus shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like because Charlie, most of Charlie's scenes are short bus, but like they're like, well, how do we determine how much gas we're selling to each person? And Charlie's like, I'll just count it as it's like coming out of the barrel. I'll just count the gallons. And he's like, I don't think you can do that.
You need to run it through some sort of a meter.
I mean, form of measurement.
Yes, you can weigh it. I mean, that's also a way, and then you just convert it to volume. Or you could just get measuring cups.
There you go.
Oh wow.
It would take a while, but you could do it.
You could, yeah. So that's
just put it in gallon barrels and sell it by the gallon.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
It's quite the background you got going on there, Max. I've seen it before on comics aficionados, but not actually as up close. And I can safely say, at least I can recognize a couple of the books you got back there too. So that's always good.
Yeah, you got a good selection of Omnibuy back there.
Yeah.
Omnibuses. It's something. It's definitely like, I think my collection would be dwarfed though by like Aaron's toy collection. You know what I mean? Because like Aaron has an incredible collection of toys and stuff like that. So I love how each one of us has like a different thing. Because then like if you looked at Doc's comic collection, oh my God, I would look like a child next to his.
No, I don't even. I can't even.
Yeah, that's excessive.
I can't even rival.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yes, yeah, in a good way. So.
Well, I appreciate it. Although at the same time, Pele apparently puts mine to fucking shame. His is 10 times mine. He's
got some serious shit.
He's in 6-figure volume.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, like I mean, he had to do reinforced concrete in his basement for the weight of it.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of paper and a lot of weight if you think about it. Yeah, each book may not weigh a lot, but we've all picked up a full long box before and went, Jesus Christ.
I was like, oh my God.
A full long box with bags and boards, so approximately 240 to 250 books, is 73 pounds.
Yep.
Wow.
And so now you multiply that by what I have, I'm at a little over, I'm close to 2 tons in two short tons. Pele is in like the 50-ton range.
Good.
Yeah.
Is Pele another YouTuber on here? Forgive my ignorance.
Pele used to be on Comics Aficionados. Him and Wes had a bit of a falling out, and he's from Tennessee. He was going to join us tonight, but he apparently had a family emergency pop up and was unable to join us.
Well, damn, I'm sorry to hear that, but
yeah,
you never know what happens on behind the scenes on some of these things, but I remember Doc recently, because we were talking about Battle Chasers.
Yes,
and recently you showed that Red Monica variant.
Oh, I love that book.
It's killer, man, and you know that a book cover like that would never be made in mainstream.
Might be not in the mainstream now, but independent like Joe Mad. Joe Mad can do what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, if Joe wanted to, I mean, I don't know but the thing is, I don't even know if Image would publish it. He'd have to probably do self-publishing, start his. Now, granted, he's got the money, he's got the clout, he could. What is his company? Airship something or other. He could do like Airship Comics. He already has a video game company. Publishing comics isn't exactly that hard for him.
Yeah, no, he could do a crowdfunder and make a.
Well, that makes me wonder if Berserk started today instead of back in the 80s, would companies like Dark Horse be rushing to put out English translations of it, considering what the content of that story is?
Berserk the manga?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, would they be reprinting it? Yeah, no, you don't even know, because it's like now it would have to be read through by sensitivity readers.
And I think sensitivity readers' heads would explode.
Oh yeah, it's so ridiculous to me that there is a class of people who goes out looking for things to offend them, to hurt their own feelings with. It's unbelievable. It's like, you can avoid these things. There's all sorts of entertainment that I'm like, well, I'm not going to like that, and I just avoid it, and it's fine. I don't call for it to be destroyed, and it has to not exist.
Some people are too much of a pussy to be a masochist in the BDSM club. They have to do it literary instead of literally. And they're just literary masochists. That's what they are. They enjoy hurting themselves. They enjoy being hurt, and if they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, and then they want to inflict pain upon you by, oh, you like this? Well, then I have to take it away from you.
Well, that's what's great about a couple of things I'm into. One is I build mecha models, so Gundams and things like that. Anytime they've tried creeping into that hobby, it's like building a model, fuck off.
Yeah.
Don't just give us what it looks like in the anime in plastic. Yeah, Warhammer, it's way too small for my old eyes.
But Warhammer has held the line so far too, in not letting
to a degree,
not letting these maniacs come in. Whereas D&D is.
D&D. I saw read today what they were doing with D&D. I went, I'm so glad I play OSR rule sets. Because we're gonna get rid of the half elves and half orcs because it's racist to call them half breeds.
Oh God!
But they're different species. They are literally different species. It's a fantasy world.
It's funny you said something, Aaron. You said you were like, I think they enjoy being offended by something, and I would actually I don't know if I'm necessarily pushing back against that, because I know what you're saying. I think though they don't enjoy it. I think they actually hate themselves and they hate their lives and they hate the fact that they have to do this, but they think that they're, I don't know, something like when they say like, oh, I'm not part of the problem. They're like these activists that really like their lives are just focused and centered around this. And it's exhausting. I mean, I couldn't imagine waking up thinking, what am I going to be offended by today? You would be, like your life would be just so sad. And so I don't know if they love that aspect of
I think
themselves.
some of them definitely do. I've said for years
Oh,
now
do you
that
think
I think
so?
some of these
Okay.
people sexually get off on
Maybe, yeah.
bossing people around and like, haha, I just
No, that's it.
controlled
I
this
think that
entire subculture of people with just one tweet or one email or one letter
Yeah.
to the editor or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think everybody's right to an extent in this
Yeah.
conversation. Is I do think that they enjoy inflicting pain upon others because it makes them feel powerful, and in their lives they have no power. They don't have any money. Their lives are sad. They live in shitty apartments. They
I've
think that
seen it in the subculture I used to be part of. I used to do medieval reenactment. And it's a worldwide organization known as the Society for Creative Anachronism.
Okay, I'm familiar with them.
Yes, SCA. So they would actually have barons and kings and queens, and the kings and queens were all done via combat, whatever. Some of these motherfuckers literally thought they were royalty. Okay, so and a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, they're such and such in real life. Oh, and they would have some sort of pathetic life, a nagging wife, shitty kids, bad job, whatever trope you want to throw at it. But when they went and did this, they were someone important.
It's all that
no,
they have.
you're not, but it's cool that you think you are.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so and you see that in the comic industry too, and I think that's what you get with a lot of these pros is that they in the comics industry they're a celebrity. So they get to be, they get to act like they're celebrity, a comic celebrity. I had someone refer to me as like a comic celebrity, and I was like, it's kind of like not being a celebrity at all,
Well, it's funny because like if they were to walk around anywhere other than maybe a comic convention, no one would like. I think was it Zach that just put out a video, or maybe it was Perch, but they were like, Tom King. Go into a retailer shop, go into, direct market, like go into a comic store. I guarantee you people won't recognize you, and you'll probably listen in on some conversations about your books, and no one will know who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting, the celebrity aspect.
Yeah, it's true. Like I get, it's like I occasionally get recognized at Disneyland or outside of a Disney store at the mall, but or at a comic convention, and that's it. That's it. I think one guy recognized me at a restaurant once and tweeted about it. Like, oh, I saw Aaron Sparrow eating dinner, but I was too embarrassed to go up and talk to him. And I was like, you should have come up and talked to me. I'm not a celebrity.
Well, I think anytime you get activists, and this is a way that I kind of view activism in general, especially people that are hardcore into it, there is a direct inverse correlation between the amount of portion of their life that is required for something bad to exist and their likelihood of actually trying to solve it. Because if you solve the problem that your entire life is circling around, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
They don't have anything else. So the tactics they use are almost guaranteed to fail because they self-sabotage. I don't know if it's consciously, unconsciously, because if they actually fix the thing that they claim that needs fixed, they wouldn't have any purpose in life and they'd end up just dying of purposelessness.
Well, it's the same as politicians. It's they're not actually here to fix any of the things that they're talking about because they need to run on those again. So for all of the kvetching and caterwauling about the Supreme Court sending abortion back to states' rights, and then the Democrats having like an actual conniption. It's like, you guys have been in charge of the government several times. You could have codified this at any time, but you didn't, because what you actually want was you want to be able to run on it again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so
same conversation's coming up with gun rights now.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, I do believe that they would, if they really could get guns away from the populace, I think they would, because we're definitely seeing them kind of like pull the mask away as to what they really want, which is just absolute control over everybody's lives. Under this new world order that they're pushing, with the WHO and climate change and everything else that you see going on. And these are all no matter how you feel about any of those issues, you have to understand whatever side you're on those issues, these are all issues that are designed to take more control over your life. At the end of the day, it's even if these are real issues and you believe that these are real issues, their impetus is never let a crisis go to waste. Yeah. And that crisis is to take away more of your money and more of your freedom and control more of your life. And what we're really coming into now in just, you know, in the country, in entertainment, and everything, because it's just invading everything, is there's the people that want to control everything, and then there's the people that just want to be left the hell alone. And you know, those are the two camps that people are kind of like dividing into now. It's not so much political parties anymore. It's just that's what it comes down to. And the people that like think, yeah, and the people that think that when their side gets control over the other side and everybody else, that they'll have some special place in it. And it's like, no, you'll be eating the same shit the rest of us are eating. You know, you'll be eating the bugs and living in the little cubes and you know, going to work where they tell you to work. I saw a great tweet where somebody was saying, you know, I just can't wait till we have socialism in this country, so I can just do what I do, you know, like just officially do what I want to do now, which is just, you know, just work on my farm. And the very first response is someone going, "Your farm?"
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
At no point will, and here's the problem: the people that want to bother you can never be beaten by the people that just want to be left alone.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. And you know, the conservatives have their own issues with that. Like, you know, they run on the Second Amendment all the time. They could have thrown out the fucking Firearms Act dozens of times over the years, and they didn't, because they want to run on it too.
Yep.
So since we've derailed and gone at a full 180, maybe even a 720.
So anyway, Spider-Man.
Yeah, so Spider-Man.
So the one guy that doesn't ever use guns. All right.
Yeah, he's picked up some sort of energy weapon here or there, but that's usually a one-off because he did use the sonic gun, didn't he, against Venom at least once, if not twice?
He did, yeah.
Yes.
Why does he not always just go back and get that?
I don't know.
Like, oh, Venom's back, Reed. I need that sonic gun again.
Or just, I mean, he's got like, you know, he can probably put it in. He's got at least one or two pouches on his. And there's pockets in his costume. He carries a cell phone. There's pockets somewhere. I guarantee he can redesign that friggin' costume to have a holster for the sonic gun.
I thought he just clenched his butt cheeks and kept his cell phone there.
Well, distinctly possible. It depends on whether or not J. Scott Campbell's drawing him.
Right? Like you could bounce a quarter off that thing when J. Scott Campbell's drawing it.
Yep.
Don't tell me that there aren't comics made for the female gaze.
And I hate to do this because it just popped in my head. Doc, remember the last time we were doing this? We brought up the Thanos copter.
Oh yes, the Thanos copter.
That look from MVP kind of shows he doesn't know what we're talking about.
No, I do not.
Oh man, you gotta be exposed to this MVP. We gotta.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, please. My young
This is
brain.
before my time too, or if I was alive, I was only a couple years old because it was from an Iron Man book in the 70s.
Doc's gonna educate us in the words of Craig.
But I mentioned it to a friend of mine, and he had the same reaction, but his was a little bit more of what the fuck.
Yes.
So what?
Thanos at one point had a friggin' helicopter for reasons. I don't even know if he was necessarily like I think they were still calling him the Mad Titan, but not exactly. Like they weren't even like focusing on the fact that he was from Titan. Like they treated him like he was just some weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, it actually has Thanos on the friggin'
it's a Thanos copter on the tail of the copter. It's this big yellow helicopter.
That's amazing. Yes. It's kind of like I remember that there's this really distinct cover from this 1993, I think it was, Silver Surfer series, and Silver Surfer is standing in line to get a job.
Yes,
he's like standing.
Well, there's actually a good story reason behind that. Is because he's stripped of his powers and he can't get off the planet. He's just a regular guy.
Absolutely, there it is. Yeah, and that's what I thought was so cool. Is I was like, you know, it's such a like you're looking at this and you're like, how in the world am I going to be interested in a Silver Surfer looking for work comic? And sure enough, it's actually, I love that story. It's because, like you said, yeah, you really don't know, he doesn't know what else to do. And the government of that planet says, you have to make money. If you're here, you can't just leave our planet. You have to make money to get travel off land. But this is a great, look at that photo. That is hilarious. Did they actually put, so they
and
did
the fact
put it
is
in
they
Loki.
put it in Loki.
Okay.
It was
They
in
put a
that,
bunch
like,
of references
weird...
in that area for a bunch of really obscure stuff. Even I watched a video talking about the Easter eggs they put into like this whole area where time forgot essentially.
Well, it was good to know that at least
There's
one
some
of the
cool
VFX,
stuff that they threw in there.
It was good to know that at least one of the VFX artists had read the comics, because the writer of the show sure has.
That's a really obscure reference, though.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, we all knew it. I mean, we all knew it except for Max.
Yeah.
I only learned about it the last time I talked with Doc.
It was a kind of cliche, like, it's kind of viewed in the same way that a lot of the other, like, Iron Man's roller skates, like, where they would just stick random shit in there sometimes, and in the comics, because they were still being essentially written for kids, and they're like, fuck it, give him a helicopter. The Spidey Mobile, the Fantastic Car. And I guess they figured, well, let's give Thanos a helicopter. I don't know.
How's Thanos going to get from point A to point B? He's got a helicopter. Why not? Why wouldn't
why not? Yeah, exactly.
I like
that wasn't a Jim Starlin book, right?
No. It was actually, I think the Thanos copter was actually in an issue of like Hellcat from like the 80s or like the late 70s.
So Hellcat was always a trash fire, not just in the modern day.
Hellcat has never been... Hellcat's a character that they have been trying to get over and try to continue finding a way to use Patsy Walker for...
ever
50 years.
She just needs to be on like a New Warriors or something like that. Like that's where you put a character like that. And then, and then maybe she gets, she was like, what, a champion for a while?
Yeah, and I think she was in the New Warriors for a period of time. She's been in a bunch of different team books. I remember she was in the issue of Avengers where they were getting a new team and they were voting on the team, and that's when they added Rage.
Yeah.
Remember Rage, the like 13-year-old boy in a adult body that wore the luchador mask?
Yeah, well, Rage was the prototype Alyssa Wong, in that the way you get a job is to come in and accuse the boss of being racist. So that's how Rage got on the Avengers, by accusing them of being racists.
Yeah,
and Alyssa Wong, obviously,
Hey, it's a key. That's a first appearance of someone doing that in a comic book. So
it's the first meta appearance.
Yes, there you go.
Of what is it? I guess life imitates art.
There you go. Yeah.
But no, I think she was one of the people that was like that was up for a vote to get onto the Avengers, and they like just passed her right by. But they've used her sporadically. The thing was, by the early 80s, they recognized, hey, look, we could sell, like back in the 50s, we could sell Patsy Walker like romance comics. We've tried making her a superhero and kind of trying to meta add her romance comics as like they're fictional. They actually exist in the Marvel universe too.
Which isn't a terrible idea. Like,
no,
you can make that work.
It's the way to make a character like Patsy Walker still able to then magically become a superhero when not everybody roll their eyes. Like seriously, it'd be like if Richie Rich somehow became Batman. Like if they decided Richie Rich grows up to be Batman.
Didn't he though, Doc? Didn't he?
No, he grows up to be Casper the Friendly Ghost when he dies as a child. But no, they like, that's a decent, interesting way. But they tried a couple of times to give her a solo book, and they're like, oh, superhero Patsy Walker can't carry a comic book. Romance Patsy Walker could, but nobody buys romance comics anymore. So I guess, fuck it. We'll just stick her in teams here and there. And then in the 2000s, they decided, hey, let's try this brilliant idea that is totally not failed 4 other times.
It's basically it's trying to hold the Russian front. You've seen plenty of people try it; they can't do it, but you're going to try it again anyway.
Yeah.
I do think that the main problem with characters like Hellcat and even to a lesser extent Moon Knight until maybe this current run, and some of the runs in the past where you had like Chuck Dixon, guys, but they were in there for really brief runs, is that you never put A-list talent on these characters. Like you never put a good creator on Patsy Walker Hellcat. You hand it to Kate Leff, or you give it to Christopher Cantwell, and he basically stealths a Patsy Walker book into an Iron Man book, but it's not about him. It's about Patsy Walker, and she's insufferable. You have to find somebody who can find something interesting about this character and write them in a way that makes people like her and want to read about her. And unfortunately, you keep hiring people who can't do that. They don't know how to make a character likable because they're just kind of writing self-inserts or people they know who are inherently unlikable. It's never going to work.
Yeah. The only thing that I can think of in like modern, like what we may see within the next couple months, I think it is, there was a solicitation for a Storm book and written by Ann Nesenti. And I love Ann's work and I love her stuff, but you can tell that like Marvel is telling Ann, hey, like we want to pitch Storm like that she's like punk. She's got a mohawk. She's cool. And like Ann is like, okay, but what's her story about? Like, what's her character? What do we want to tell about her character? And Marvel keeps going, she's punk, she's cool, she's got a mohawk. And
yeah,
it just keeps going,
she's maybe in a lesbian relationship with you. Maybe that.
Yeah, like,
and I'm sure Anne is just like scratching her head, being like, no, but like, what story do we want to tell here? She's just, it's so unfortunate. But you finally get a star talent on a star character. And I don't know, but
I mean, I'm gonna check that book out. I'm excited for it.
I hope so.
It's gonna fall into the same. I think Annie's kind of a lot like Chris Claremont in that she works better with kind of no expectation of where it's going to end. And have time to build the story, because it took her a little while to really build on Daredevil. It took her a little while to really build on a lot of things that she's done over the years. Chris was the same way. It took him a little while to really build momentum on X-Men, but every time they've come back and done like limited runs since, here's the thing, the first 5 issues of like a lot of those creators, Peter David's like the exception in my opinion. Most of those creators that wrote in long form storytelling, the first 6 to 10 issues of whatever they're doing sucks. I mean, at best it's mediocre. A lot of times it's just not very good because they stumble out of the gate. Well, the problem is they only have the gate. They don't have the off ramp to build up momentum and figure out where everything's going, what's working, what's not working, because they're on a limited, because this Storm series is the same way that Chris's Gambit series was. It's 5 issues.
Yeah.
And especially, I was just going to say, especially with no room to allow for an ongoing series, because if they do allow for that type of room, they'll just revamp it as a number 1 again after the sales start to go down, and they won't even give it like really a chance. They'll go like, let's relaunch it as a number 1. Maybe that'll spike interest again. And it's a reoccurring theme that I see happen a lot. But yeah, some of those you really need to let breathe.
You're telling me that Marvel can't give Ann Nesenti or Chris Claremont the same leeway that they gave Kelly Thompson? with
Well,
Captain Marvel, this last Captain Marvel run, where it's like
50
this book
issues
is not,
or something.
Yeah, this book is not selling, but we're just going to keep it going. We're actually losing money on it, but we're going to keep it going, because it's important to us to keep it going, as opposed to doing that with Anne or Chris, where you actually have the potential of building an audience over time.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why is because all these books are set in the past. So they really can't.
Mm.
I mean, you can't write an ongoing series that's set 40 years ago, our time 40 years ago, and expect it to not either break continuity or just cover shit that we already got, because these are pages that, it's 110 pages that fit between one issue and another. You already saw the next chapter, but the problem is you saw it 35 years ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
I like the little short stories they used to do in the back of Classic X-Men, where Claremont and John Bolton would do a story that was set around the same time as the classic issue that they were reprinting, and they would tell you a little side story that tied into it, and it was like, that was always a really interesting thing, I thought.
Well, comics almost used to have that ingrained within, like, the comic itself. Like, it wouldn't be at the very back of the issue. Like, I think I remember, so the most recent Clobber in Time book from Marvel came out, and I read that, and it got me thinking about the first appearance of when Hulk and Thing fought for the first time. I think in like Fantastic Four 25 or something like that. I forget, but it was like somewhere around there. And then you have that classic black cover. It's like issue 112, where the two of them are fighting against each other. But one of the things within that story is, like, as Hulk and Thing are fighting, that's our main story, there's a side story where you're following Reed and Human Torch, and they're trying to help the people on the ground kind of get out of the way of the destruction. And they're also playing the PR team to the news, because the news is like, what's going on in Fantastic Four Tower and blah, blah, blah. And Reed is like, Johnny, we got to go get to these news reporters and tell them that everything's okay. And so that's kind of like the little side story, but it wasn't in the very back in the comic. You had both of those stories going back and forth, but now it's just this long drawn out, you're following the same thing. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it gave some life to the comic, because you'd be kind of bouncing back between these two main stories.
Yeah, you had a B plot.
Well,
there it is. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the B plot, and I think, and oftentimes they would get into a C and or D plot as well. And the problem is, I think you have a bunch of creators that aren't creative enough to hold two different thoughts in their head at the same time.
Also, let us not forget they're also rushing from event to an event to an event to an event.
That's true. Everything's getting interrupted constantly.
Yeah. So you can't build anything. You can't. I mean, we see it with SpiderMan. He went from event to event to event over the past year. And I mean, by the way, did anyone ever find out what Peter did? Did they even bother to explain that yet? Because I gave up after they didn't even reference it for 16 issues. And I just said, oh, well, I guess they dropped the whole crux of the story.
Turns out he voted for Trump.
Oh, okay. and it blew up a town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was part of Philadelphia, and their collective brains exploded whenever Peter said, no, Spidey said, I voted for Trump. That guy built a lot of buildings that I swing on.
And then it's like Dumb and Dumber, where he's like, all right, kill him.
Yes.
And then
yeah.
No, I'm trying to think, like, what's this horrible? Yeah, because they keep like, oh, what's this horrible thing that Peter did? And I don't. Do you think they actually know, or do you think it's a JJ mystery box where he's like, wouldn't it be great if we just had this mystery and then we'll figure it out on the day? Because that's always satisfying, is when you just go, it's this.
I would also wouldn't be surprised if they had an idea when they first went forward with this, and then they're like, oh, well, we're going to have to put that story on hold because we're doing X, Y, and Z. We don't need a big shakeup in the Spider-Man side of things, so put that off for a few issues, and then they forgot.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Or things have changed, and now we can't do that story because X, Y, and Z
I'm leaning more towards that. That they put well, kind of a combination of both. They pushed it off and dropped it like very, very, very quickly into I think by issue 2. They didn't even reference it, and then we got up to like issue 12. They still hadn't referenced it again, and like it wasn't like we were set in the past and it was leading towards something. It was set in the present, and there was supposed to be some, there was a mystery box, except for they never bothered to like feed you any clues or ideas of what the mystery box might be. At least when J.J. Abrams does it, he slaps a bunch of clues on there. Now, whether or not any of those clues make sense at the end is when he opens the box, is up for debate. But they didn't even bother to describe the mystery box or the contents thereof.
No, and now they've backed themselves into a stupid corner with this whole Mary Jane thing. Like, she's off in another dimension and time moved differently, and she, married this guy and had kids with him, and it's like now
Sean King.
Yeah, so it's like so it's just it's ruined. It's ruined now. Their relationship is ruined. You can't come back from this. You can't. There's no way to do this. He could die, the kids could die. Like but it's over. You can't go back. So the only thing that you can do is make this a Mephisto plot or something Mysterio did, and none of this, you have to be able to write your way out of these terrible ideas, much like Krakoa. Like, they eventually have to find a way to write themselves out of all of those awful stories and all of the damage done to the characters. It's like Jeff Johns coming in after, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan becoming Parallax and killing off the Green Lantern Corps, and then having to come in and absolve him of that and fix everything. And fortunately, he was able to find a really creative way to do it because the guy can actually write and has a good imagination. And I just don't see anybody at Marvel right now who would be able to do that in a satisfying way. And I don't see the will from these idiots to repair the damage that they've done.
And not only right now, but like in the near future, I really don't see like any up and coming writers or artists that are like really pushing their way forward and like really making a name for themselves on smaller series and stuff. Like I really don't see any upcoming talent that could take over, for something like that. So it leaves you thinking like, man, even in the next 5 years, like what does the future look like?
Well,
all they really have is the hope that Donny Cates is going to get clean.
Yeah.
And come out of rehab with a bunch of it. That's what they're waiting on. And it's like, how long do you think that will last? Like, even if Donnie, hopefully gets his life together and comes out the better for it, how long is he going to want to do that?
And how many of his good ideas were the result of his brain being, all over the fucking place because of whatever he was on?
Yeah.
Now, like when it comes to the Spider-Man mystery box thing, well, you guys did see that one promo that Marvel released a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago, right? For Fallen Friend #1.
You talking about the Spider Boy thing?
No, it's a one shot that comes out in July, and it's called Fallen Friend. I can almost fucking guarantee it's just all black background with red text. It's a one shot. Almost guarantee it's MJ dies. That's what they're doing. That's what they're going to lead up to. They're going to kill MJ because now it's, well, first we took the marriage away, and then we gave you hope that we were going to give it back. And then we started fucking with everything with this whole her being married to Sean King and having kids thing. And now we gave her superpowers. So she's a superhero too. You people still want her and Peter to end up together. Fuck it, we're killing her. So now you can't even get it.
Yeah.
That's
and he did refer to her as just a friend now. He thinks of her as a sister.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I generally don't think about people that I used to bang as a sister, but I mean, maybe he's from Alabama.
Just remember, this is a bold new Marvel universe with bold new writers. And,
bold, brave and bold, stunning and brave. Yeah,
bold is stupid.
Yeah. No, I think he was talking to Felicia Hardy Black Cat in that panel, I think, when
Yeah,
he
he
did
was.
say that. So, to be fair,
He might
if
be just trying to
I'm
reassure her.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm Spider-Man, even if I'm just MVP and Felicia Hardy is standing in front of me and she goes, "Hey, are you seeing that other girl? Or are you with me?" I'm gonna be like, "I don't even know who that other girl is. I'm with you. I'm gonna be with you.
Who are we talking about?
Who are you talking about? No, let's you and I. Let's do this thing right now. Yeah." So, but that's just my perverted male, gaze.
your Felicia Hardy fixation.
It's bad, dude. It's a fixation for sure.
So you're a Felicia simp.
Yes,
I can
100%.
kind of get behind that. I
Yeah,
understand.
that's one of the more tolerable ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's yeah.
except
It's
for
funny because
she still wants to only fuck you with the mask on.
well, that's the thing. She's an awful human being. Like she's a terrible girlfriend, but she's got to be one of the best nights out you've ever had. I would assume. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, she probably has spent a little bit of time in a padded room, and those girls are always good fun.
You're gonna come out of that with some real deep grooves in your back, though. Like,
she's so yeah.
You're gonna get scarred. I'll put it that way.
physically and emotionally.
Yeah. I will hold
Your
those
cards.
scars as like a trophy. And be like,
Yeah,
you
but the
know how I
problem
got
is
these scars? Yeah.
she also might burn down your apartment or your house, or like definitely gonna key your car.
Yeah.
Possibly set it on fire.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think here's the problem. We all see the hot crazy Matrix. The problem is she fits into hairdressers, strippers, redheads, and women named Tiffany. She fits in that category, and that's the danger zone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I thrive, baby.
And Latinas.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny. Now, speaking of silver, or not silver, but because I was gonna say, speaking of gorgeous women with white hair, I just picked up this Lethal Protector because Drew and Kyle said like, "Hey, it's pretty good," and the illustration for Silver Sable is gorgeous. I mean, she looks amazing in these.
Is that the Venom Lethal Protector Volume 3, the one that's because they not the original one from like the 90s, and there was the one that came out like last year that David Michelin did. And then I thought I heard that they were doing another Venom Lethal Protector like 5 issue. Is this a new one? This
is the most recent one. This is issue 1 of, I want to say they're calling this one Lethal Protector 2, or like you said, 3.
Yeah.
But the illustrations in this are gorgeous. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but Silver Sable's in this one, and Eddie Brock looks great. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested, and the guys gave it a high recommend. So I said, all right, might as well try it out.
Who's the creative team on it?
David Michelini again, and the illustrator is Farid Karami. I
will go check it out because I've been yearning for Michelini to return and do some stuff. I loved his run. I loved in that era, the 90s era, for all the heat that it takes, there was some great stuff, that obviously Spider-Man was kicking at all cylinders. You had the Image guys on all those books before they went off to form Image, and Silver Sable herself had a great book that was written by Gregory Wright. Mm-hmm. And as much as modern Marvel likes to pat themselves on the back that like they're the ones who introduced diversity, Chen from the Wild Pack doesn't get any credit for being Marvel's first lesbian character.
Yeah.
The difference is that it wasn't, you weren't beaten over the head with it. It was just a character trait that existed.
She was a character first.
Yeah, it wasn't her entire personality. She didn't talk about her girlfriend constantly. She had a well-rounded all the supporting cast. And Gregory Wright never gets enough credit for that series. The Silver Sable and the Wild Pack was a lot of fun.
I always had confusion on that because they started doing, because they introduced the Wild Pack around the same time that they did the 6-pack over in X-Force and Cable.
Yep.
And I always confused the two because they both had about 6 people in it. And they were both something pack. And I'm like, wait, is this the one from Cable and X-Force? I couldn't keep them straight. I was like 13 and not really paying attention that much.
There was a guy named Grizzly on the 6-pack, but you were
yes.
like, but Grizzly's a Spider-Man villain. Is this the same Grizzly? Yeah.
Yes. It was really, really confusing. Yeah. So no, that was, Silver Sable and the Wild Pack, it didn't take off as much as it probably could have.
Beautiful art too, for the most part.
It was. I think the reason why is Silver Sable's costume, while nice, it has no draw to it. It's very plain.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's just all silver. It's silver with a bunch of different lines through it.
Yep.
But it's still just all silver. There's no color to it. It's not eye-catching.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that you don't want to see those pouches? No, I'm kidding. Aaron knows me. I'm all about pouches. I'm a pouch guy.
Oh, I love the pouches.
When I showed off the design for Silver Streak, Max was like, pouches!
Yeah, see,
yeah.
I mean, I love Silver Sable as a character, but she's kind of like Sabra in the same way. Sabra is a very interesting character, very unique story, but just a little too bland in the design.
Yeah. I think it was you guys were saying how interesting it is, like when you look back at some of these older stories and you realize, like, oh my God, these were so much more creative in their diversity, and in their like culture, like how many different people they had, how many different characters that were represented within these stories. And like a month ago, I finished the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine like 6-issue miniseries or whatever. And I remember reading it in college, but I finished it again, to have it more fresh in my head. And there's a moment where Kitty is like, she's being mentored by Wolverine. She's training with him, and he's taking her through the wilderness and there's like a blizzard that comes through, and she sprains her ankle and she falls down, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to keep going. And Wolverine just looks at her and he's like, then you will let, I think his name is Oni, who's like
Ogun.
Yeah, thank you. Who's the demon who's like taken her over. He's like, you will let him win. And if you do that, you will never come back. So you either get up off your ass and you come with me, or you will die here. And she's like, I can't do it. And he goes, fine. And he turns around and he fucking leaves. And he leaves her there because he's trying to teach her a lesson, because he knows that she can do it. And so it's like you give her character so much agency when you allow her to be mentored and trained and coached. And then when she comes home, Wolverine isn't even fazed, because he's like, I knew that she was going to come back. I just had to test her a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
And
you would never see that from a female character now.
Well, and this is the reason why I say that Jason Aaron ruined the X-Men, because he put Wolverine and Cyclops on completely antithetical sides to each other on what their actual belief would be in that situation. With the kids going into fight, Wolverine would never be the one saying, no, they don't, the kids don't need to learn to fight and shouldn't fight.
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine would never do that. And Jason Aaron broke the X-Men with that story. Schism was the end of the X-Men.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't there like was it a Jason Aaron series that it was like Wolverine and the X-Men, where he is leading like this group of young kids?
But he's just a headmaster, and he does everything in his power at all times to keep the kids out of actual combat.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that he lets go into combat is fucking Quentin Quire, because he just doesn't give a shit whether or not Quentin lives or dies.
Yeah, which is also antithetical to Wolverine's character.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Because Wolverine would have killed Quentin.
Mhm.
He knows what that guy is capable of and what he would do given the opportunity. He'd slaughter him in his sleep.
It's so ridiculous. Well, no, he would give him fighting chance because remember, Doc. When
Samurai.
Yeah, and when Rachel was going to kill the Black Queen in her sleep, like sneak up and kill her, Wolverine tracked Rachel down. Was like, we don't do this, And they're like, she's like, you've killed more people than anybody I know, and he's like, well, yeah, you come at me with a sword, I'll meet you with a sword, but it's always face to face, not like this, and goes to stop her.
He wouldn't pull Luke Skywalker.
The interesting thing about Quentin Quire is that there's a very specific reason why he's the way that he is in Grant Morrison's run, and it's resolved. Yet every writer since then writes Quentin Quire the exact same way. Like they write him as if he is still that character from that run when there was a very specific reason for the mutiny and everything else that was resolved. But nobody can figure out what to do with him afterwards. So they just go, oh, let's repeat the thing.
Everybody realized, okay, Quentin Quire's story is done. And you move on from him. There's a reason why his original design looked like generic 60s Peter Parker. His first, when he first is shown in the school, he literally looks exactly like Amazing Fantasy 15 Peter Parker. He's wearing the same fucking sweater vest, same haircut, same glasses. It's to see him go bad, and then you resolve that story because he even finds out he's adopted. And then his parents aren't his parents, the same way Peter, with Aunt May and Ben, his parents aren't who he thought they were, and all the other stories with Peter Parker and finding out Mary and Richard weren't who he thought they were. It was very, very much him doing a Spider-Man story with Peter Parker going bad with mutant powers, though, and then resolving it. And that's the end of that story. That's it. You don't bring that character back. It's like bringing back a throwaway villain.
Yeah, or if you do, you have to have a new idea. You have to go like, okay, so what were the ramifications of that for him when he went away, and when he comes back, how is he different, and what kind of story can we tell with that, and is it interesting, and you move forward from there. Like I know that Joe Corallo is a big Quentin Quire fan. He loved that Grant Morrison story, and he's one of the people that I've talked about the fact that they've never been able to move away from that, and he's like, man, if I could just get a hold of Quentin Quire, do something interesting with him, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, it wouldn't be the same thing.
You mean like how in Marvel right now they're telling this beautiful story of Gambit and Rogue? I don't know, Doc, did you check out this one where Gambit rides bitch on the back of a motorcycle? I think Doc had to dip out for a second. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't
think there was any hope of them doing that relationship any justice.
Well, not with that writer. No. I mean,
God, no. But I read that issue and I was like, this has got to be a joke. Like not even if we took away the Gambit rides bitch on the back of the motorcycle, Gambit sounds nothing like Gambit. Like he has zero character. It is written by ChatGPT. It is awful.
No, ChatGPT would do a better job because it would actually go back and scan the old issues. It would do more than skim the Wikipedia article. It would actually find examples to write from. That's the thing. But it's this is what happens when you hire people who just where instead of like going, okay, we're going to do a Rogue and Gambit series. Who's got pitches? And then people send in pitches and you pick the best one. This is what happens when you choose a writer based on, the person that they're sleeping with, we want to get into business with, or this person has a fashionable identity, or, whatever it is, whatever your ulterior motive is, where you go to that writer and you say, here's the idea, now execute it. And they're like, I don't know anything about this. I guess I'll just skim the Wikipedia article. And that's what you get. That's the sort of comics that you get. It's just really unfortunate. The industry is in a really bad place, even though it's the healthiest the industry's ever been, according to some people.
Comics are booming.
Yeah.
I told Drew and Kyle, because we're gonna do the weekly wrap up on their channel tomorrow night, and I told them, I was like, we're gonna roast the shit out of this Rogue and Gambit comic, because like I cannot be silent anymore. I was just like, yeah, this is bad. This is really bad, and and what's interesting too is like it's not even, because a lot of people get after me and get after Kyle and Drew and you guys, because they always go like, oh, well, they just call out like woke stuff. And I'm looking at the Rogue and Gambit comic, and it's not like, oh, they're putting all a bunch of ideology. It's just so badly written that it's like it doesn't always have to be the woke stuff or whatever. I think a lot of people,
bad.
yeah, it's just bad, and
Well,
people have lost that meaning too, and so yeah.
Did issue 2 get worse than issue 1? Because Wes and I read issue 1, and I had to do it for worst of the week, and I kind of wanted to like fly to the Philippines, kick him in the balls, and fly home.
Dude, you will want to fly if he makes you read it again. Maybe I'll make you read it this time. I don't know, but yeah. Needless to say, Gambit. I was telling Aaron, Gambit sounds like he's written by ChatGPT, but worse. Like if they didn't have a good prompt for ChatGPT, and then Gambit rides bitch on the back of a motorcycle because like he's about to hop on the bike, and then Rogue comes over and she's like, "Get out of the way, I'm driving." And then she gets on and he gets in the back. But he just, yeah, he has no character. He has zero character, and he can't he doesn't have any like dialogue that actually sounds like him. So
why does Rogue need to drive a motorcycle?
She can fly.
This is like when I would go to the toy store and I would see like they had like toy motorcycles, and like the Flash was on one, and then like the Silver Surfer was on another, and I would just be like, you just put characters on motorcycles apparently.
Like
they had a go ahead.
Yeah, like no, like the first issue, like I came into that series expecting, okay, they're obviously going to break them up by the end of the series. I know that. I mean, that's kind of a given. Having a heterosexual relationship in modern Marvel comics that is healthy is, well, verboten. But now, which one are they going to make gay? And I was voting for they were going to make Gambit gay after this, you know, because they'd always be like, well, he really likes cats. And apparently that would be the logic. Because, you know, for whatever reason.
When he was on X Factor with Richter and Shatterstar, he said,
yeah, exactly. He's like, I want a taste of this. So, but then I'm like, ooh, obviously they're not gonna. Well, they might make him gay, but they're writing him absolutely phenomenally incompetently. Like he's a complete buffoon in this comic book, and I get it. Like, you know, he was kind of that like suave macho 90s character that they have to emasculate at every given chance. That's like the default of modern creators. Oh, he was created in the 90s and he was good with ladies. All right, we have to figure out a way to completely emasculate this character.
Yeah, he can't stay cool.
Yeah.
He wasn't even like, because you could say that, like, you know, Wolverine was probably like the masculine, you know, one of the X-Men, but Gambit was like the heartthrob. You know what I mean? Like he did have a lot of masculinity, but he was like you said, the very suave, you know, he was like your romantic, you know, really knew how to talk to ladies type of guy, very good looking.
He was your romance cover, like your romance novel cover guy.
Yeah.
You know, kind of, you know, the hair that's just kind of like, yeah, it's messy, but it's also impeccably styled. And, you know, like,
and with the dark, mysterious eyes, because his eyes are all black.
Yeah.
And with the red, they're all black eyes with the red pupil. Yeah, and you know, he's like, I hate the fact that they're wasting this fucking art on this book.
Yeah. So I need to go back and reread to get the context again, but Rogue says you put an innocent life at risk, and he's just like, he'll save her. And as he's walking the bike away, she's like, I'm driving. Next panel, he's riding bitch, and you're just like, come on, dude, are you serious? So, like,
now,
yeah,
it would be
said,
one
why?
thing if it was like an action thing and they were being pursued and he had to throw cards and shit, like while she
That'd be
drives,
cool.
you know,
Yeah.
that would work. But I also think much cooler if Rogue's flying and taking stuff out and he's riding the motorcycle and doing cool shit and throwing cards while still controlling the motorcycle and doing sweet jumps, and they both look good, and you go, man, I love these characters are great, I can't wait for this action scene to be over so they can bang, you know,
yes fucking yes.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, there you go. That's how you do it right there. But but no,
they have to.
A man can dream.
To just ruin. They have to. And here's the thing: they're not even building up Rogue by tearing down Gambit.
No, they're really not.
They're actually making her look less because they're writing him incompetently, and then it's like she's beating up a short bus kid. I'm sorry, you don't get to win the UFC title for beating up the kid with the helmet. You just don't. You look like just an asshole.
It hurts, it hurts both characters because you now make Rogue insufferable, unlikable when she used to be the cute
Southern Belle.
Southern Belle, yeah. And now she's this girl boss.
You know? She was always tortured, but she always, for somebody who like couldn't actually physically touch anybody and like just really yearned for that, she had like this sassy kind of upbeat attitude at the same time. You know, she was very fun. And then Gambit was a very fun character, you know, very suave and very cool, but like Rogue could get past his defenses. And you know, I want to read a book about why these two characters are still hot for each other. You know, where they both are doing cool shit, and you're like, yeah, of course they're into each other. You know? And
I can't even figure out if they actually like. They don't even like each other at this point.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't feel like it in this
welcome
book.
Welcome to marriage.
I mean, yeah, sure, but we already read this book back when Mike Carey turned it into the Rogue book on X-Men Legacy, and she went on a fucking road trip. Or after she dumped Remy, after she found out his role in the Mutant Massacre, whenever they were both kidnapped by Nanny and Orphan Maker and stuck in Antarctica. We already saw this fucking story twice.
Yeah, it's
by better writers.
Yeah, House of Idea.
Yeah. As we said earlier.
Thank you for putting that up, Imperatus.
No problem.
Yeah, I'd thrown that up there just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you're getting into. But by the way, brother, so how did you? Before I forget to ask, how did you find everyone? How did you get to know everyone?
I've seen all you guys on Comics Aficionados. I usually listen to it during my work shift on Saturdays.
Oh,
and I just reached out to Stock like, hey, I'm starting up a YouTube channel. I'm gonna, want to hop on and talk comics sometimes. He's like, yeah, sure, fuck it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was my answer when I got asked. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned to Doc because I've been busy at work. It's like, hey, when you're free to do one, he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Can you reach out to some people and see who else we can get to join us? And he reached out to Aaron and Pele, and I've seen you before. I appreciate your takes. I don't want to say this isn't meant to be negative, but they're very moderate and like, hey, I can see both sides of things, and sometimes they're still bad ideas, but I'll at least give the attempt of trying to see where the person's coming from. And modern comics, that's really hard to do in some cases. I don't think they know where they're coming from.
Well, normally it's just like they're weirdos.
Yeah,
it's like, they're weird perverts. That's where it's coming from. Just completely insane, and that's as far as you end up going. But no, that's what I appreciate about Max as well, is that he's able to have kind of like a kind of a moderate voice, and when you get crazy personalities on like Doc and myself.
I mean, I'm just sitting here throwing verbal Molotov cocktails at the entire comic industry,
which is why I have you on, because someone's got to do it.
I was gonna say there's almost like a perfect. Well, first of all, let me just say Thank you. Doc, I'll wait for your praise later. You can tell me what you like about my channel, but no, I'm kidding.
No, I
But
love the voice, brother. The
oh,
voice
thank
is
you, thank you.
smooth as shit. It is smoother than baby shit. It's like comfort food.
Well, thank you. I was gonna say it's so funny because we were talking about it on a stream. We were joking about my voice, and then some random guy I've never seen in my life commented on the live stream later, and he said, "You're one click away from sounding like Kermit." And then I was like, "Okay, like, thank you." And I just laughed at it.
I don't know if I think that's true.
I don't know. Yeah, like maybe Ray Romano. Like I could see maybe being.
Yeah, I can kind of see Ray Romano a little bit.
But
you have to really push it though. You have to be,
Joe, thanks for stopping.
like that,
Thanks for stopping by, bro. I will see you Monday for that 70s rock fan stream. Should be another interesting one. If you guys are not subscribed to either Joe or that 70s rock fan, definitely go and do it. I do a lot of stuff with 70s, and he's got a good hockey show Saturday nights with Brahma Bull, and he does it's only talking roll on Mondays, which has devolved into a whole bunch of other topics.
Unlike this stream.
Well, yeah, but those have devolved into other shows.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Like we have one called the Canon Film Club, where we've just been talking about the old Canon Studios movies.
Oh, nice.
From the 80s, and we've had Razor Fist on a couple of those, and the author behind the Canon Films film. It's really huge books. You could beat somebody to death with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet
That's
from somebody today I'm not particularly familiar with, but they had pictures of like all these YouTubers, and they were just talking about how they're, they never say anything positive. They always say everything's negative, and a bunch of grifters, and blah blah blah. And I was looking, I was like, oh, I like all those YouTubers.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, there's Nerdrotic, there's Chrissy Mayer, there's the Critical Drinker.
I love it when someone is like, mentions all these like, the quickest way to the alt-right is through these channels, and it lists and it tags all the channels, and all the comments below are, hey, I've never seen these guys before. Thanks for showing, thanks for promoting them. They're like, hey, these are great channels. Thanks for promoting them. And
I've heard of some of these, but now go check out the rest of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really is like, because people think it's a funnel for the alt-right, but no, it's actually a funnel for people who have had a voice for the past 5 years, 6 years that haven't been able to vocalize their opinions. And now they have an opportunity to do that. And so, of course, they're going to feel like they are welcomed, but yeah, I saw that tweet as well. I thought that was pretty funny. It's like, I know that guy.
None of us are alt-right. We're just right so far.
There you go.
Yeah. At some point, I will convince Wes to make an episode just the Doc is Right show, and we can just do all of the things I've been right about.
I will wear that shirt.
I heard that this past Saturday. I'm like, oh, they're gonna make I'll wear it.
Oh, I will. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, would it be weird to wear a shirt of myself? I don't know.
No, you'd be like the villain.
It's just gonna have your name on it. I mean, unless it's gonna have the logo like you use for your avatar. But
yeah, come on, you're like just think of it like a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And you're just wearing your own merch.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I could rock my own merch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only people who it's not there's only 2 rules for that. Don't be in a band and wear your own merch.
Yeah.
And don't be going and seeing a band wearing their merch.
Don't be that guy. You're wearing the band, you're wearing the shirt of the band you're going to see. Don't be that guy. Gutter is a tool. Gutter is a tool.
Now, can you buy their merch and wear it out as you're walking out of the venue?
Sure,
I've
the
done
show's
that
over.
before.
Yeah, the show's over. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're supposed to wear it thrown over your shoulder.
I was going to say, also depends on how much merch you're buying too.
That's true. Yeah,
like you buy the T-shirt of the band you're going to see while you're seeing them. You end the show with their shirt thrown over your shoulder like a fucking victory flag.
Make a big, yeah.
Yeah, you go to see Morrissey, but you're wearing a Smith shirt.
Hey, there you go.
I mean, with some of the bands I've seen over the years, yeah, it's definitely a victory getting out of there.
Yeah, for
Yeesh.
sure. With like other people's blood on you, and you're like, oh my god. But yeah, no. Just real quick, I did want to say thank you again, man, because I think that, and this is a great topic too, and I don't mean to veer us off on anything, but
that happened.
I think going forward, I'm just going to not even have
Yeah,
the general topic like I've been doing. Just, hey, you got a bunch of guys who like talking about comics and see where the conversation goes, because that's how they end up anyways.
absolutely, dude. That's how 99% of comic book shop, conversations I have go. And but I was gonna say, yeah, I think I would actually take it as a compliment. I would never see it as like an insult or like I'm a pussy or something. Like, so when I hear people say, I like your takes because they're super sensible and they're mild, like that's what I hope to be, right? Because we have so many YouTube channels that are like fucking disaster,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But then we also have channels that are like, the exact opposite. Like, this is the best thing ever, and nothing else is ever gonna be as great as this MCU movie. And
Every
it's like,
book out, every book out this week is a 10, and it's great, and comics is great, and all these movies are great. This is the best Marvel movie yet until the next one that I see.
and both of those can be super exhausting and very tiring. So I like to just kind of like meet in the middle and go, I think there's some really good points to both sides. Maybe not the comics is booming right now, because that's an absolute lie. But I, and everyone knows me. It's like they all know that I lean towards this side of the aisle. But I think it is good to have like someone that can understand, like, hey, I've seen people like this, or I can understand kind of where they're coming from, but they're still wrong. So like, I don't know. I think there's a good balance. But I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No, not a problem.
But that's why I also kind of like aficionados, because you get so many different takes. You get like Josh, who's really integrated into like a lot of like news through Hollywood and stuff. But then you get Doc, who really has these, the Doc is Right show.
Mhm.
Like a lot of the things that he says, though they're harsh, a lot of the times they end up being right.
And then you get Fatal J, who's the everyman for the audience, because everybody has to stop and explain what they're talking about.
I was going to make a comment, but you beat me to it.
He's the Luke Skywalker. We're all projecting ourselves onto Fatal J, who's leading us through the story.
As he's eating something
A
into the
burrito.
microphone. Yeah.
A breakfast burrito.
And you're like, Jay, this is a professional show, my man. We gotta act, yeah.
In fairness, at least Yule turns off his mic when he's going to take a hit off the bog.
Yeah.
But you can
That's
still
fair.
hear it.
Oh yeah, you can still hear the bog rip in the background. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I had explained to a buddy of mine that I game with. I had him on a stream one time. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm kind of glad you're on camera. He's like, why? I'm like, because it beats you getting up while we're talking while gaming, so you can go take a leak and not take your headset off. At least I can see you.
Yeah. Lieutenant Frank Drebin just going to the middle of the press conference.
It's like that. Who was the guy who, I forget what his name was, but Chrissy Mayer had him on for a show, and he had his webcam like on his laptop, and he went to like go check a wire behind his laptop. So he closed his laptop a bit to like look behind it, and the camera just pointed straight down to his crotch, and he had nothing on but these little chony, these chonies like underwear, like little like boxer briefs.
Oh.
And Chrissy Mayer's face was just like this, and she just like was clicking, like trying to click out.
Well, wasn't it a couple of weeks ago that fucking didn't Gavin McGinnis come on one of
on FNC? That was
and like
show.
whipped his dick out or something?
That was a
What
nightmare.
the
Yeah.
hell?
I think it was a prosthetic. But still, it was just like dong out.
It very well could have been. At least that's what the guys were saying at first, because they were like, you know what, we don't want to get demonetized. We want to see if, like, you know, maybe it was just one of those little Wizinator things. It's a fake, you know, prosthetic. But then I think they just said, you know what, no, let's lean into it. Because, like, if we lean into it, we can really say, oh yeah, you know, Gavin's tiny dick or whatever, blah blah. I can't believe he did that. And plus, I think on Gavin's show, he even said, he's like, yeah, I whipped my dick out. And then we were like, oh, so it really was you? You know what I mean? So, like, but then that is Gavin. So, like, he wouldn't say, I don't expect his personality to say that it was a prosthetic. I don't know. The whole thing was a nightmare.
But still, I mean, thankfully, I don't think we've ever gone that far on aficionados. So.
No.
Not yet. No, I'm kidding.
Give me some time.
Well, you've already hosted, so you didn't detonate the show then.
No,
Yeah.
almost, but
Almost.
but no, I didn't. And Wes still gets monetized. So
The guy you were talking about, Max, as Joe's was pointing out, was the guy from Star Trek Continues.
I think so. I would have to check. Yeah,
I heard about that whole incident. I
yeah.
just don't recall who it was because I generally don't care.
Joe's. Yeah, I think he
Oh.
was canceled. I just
That-
forget why. And
was
what
that
it was.
Vic Mignogna guy?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
actually, that's who it was. It was Vic,
That's exactly who it is. Yep.
the anime voice actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm just sitting there going, I remember when that whole thing was going on. I'm like, I have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
I mean, I knew tangentially, but like nothing that they ever really like talked. It really just seemed like a bunch of bitter, like, fellow voice actors that decided they didn't like him and probably talked a lot of shit behind his back, like finding a way to gotcha him, because all of the allegations, like, were just kind of like, you guys have all done this on panels and at shows, and you guys have all engaged in kind of this, like, you know, frat behavior, you know, men, women, like, I've seen you guys do it. So, like, what's the problem here?
I mean, my take on it was, a bunch of anime voice actors. From American playing, whatever. I don't watch dubs. Fuck off. Your job,
it's
you
really strange
probably
'cause in
suck at your
general-
job.
In general, I have far more respect for voice actors than I do screen actors. I think that they have to bring more to the table for their performance a lot of the times. And whenever you see, like, you know, regular actors come in and do voice acting, it's often very
Mediocre at
flat.
best.
Yeah, you know. So I generally have a lot more respect, but for the ones at Funimation on the Dragon Ball show, and not a lot of respect for them.
I still have, to this day, have no idea who any of these people are, and I'm perfectly happy with this because I don't.
You're
give a shit
better
about-
off. You're better off not knowing. Like, you know, that's the thing about you know, it's kind of like what we've discovered with social media. We were better off not knowing, you know, our comic creators. We were better off not knowing our actors and actresses. You know, the mystery was better for the industry.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
That's a great point. Actually,
The mystique. There's no mystique to actors and actresses anymore. There's no mystique to authors. Everybody knows Stephen King's a dumb fuck.
Yeah. Every time I see him, I think he's like an elderly lesbian until it, like, clicks into my head that he's Stephen King. Like, he just did the way that he looks at. He's just like he's got a lady face. It's really strange.
Yes, because old men tend to turn into weird-looking old lesbian men, and old women tend to also turn into weird-looking old lesbian women.
I would say that soft men turn into
soft,
you know,
men.
Yeah.
You know, not your grizzled, like, Robert Shaw types that are all like, y'all know me, y'all know what I do for a living. You know, those guys that, like, you know, when I'm on the train in Seattle going to you know, the convention center, and you know, you see those guys from the docks get on, you know, and they're just all like with their beanies and their weathered faces and everything, and you're just like, oh, these guys are gonna kill some sharks.
Yeah.
That's a Gordon's fisherman. That's awesome.
As you get harpooned.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
I was
mess
gonna
with those
say.
guys.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's actually a great point, and I may, I was gonna bring this up on our Sunday night showdown, because, well, I know that Easter's this weekend, so we may have to wait a weekend or something, but
Is it Showdown or is it SmackDown?
SmackDown we'll figure it out. I keep saying Showdown, but I think it should be SmackDown. I don't know.
Well, Showdown, we would actually have to set up like a debate, I think. Whereas SmackDown is just we're all just talking.
And you
We're all
also
just
might get
smacking
sued by
shit.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
If it gets big enough, you might get sued by Vince or
Vince
whoever the
McMahon
hell
Or Endeavor.
Yep, that I was
Endeavor.
just about to say. Or
whoever the fuck owns it now.
yeah.
Dana White.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, Imperatus, you brought up a really good point. Was like it's kind of that chicken or the egg, right? It's like, and I saw this on Twitter the other day, and someone asked this question, and I was like, oh my god, that you could talk for out like this could be an entire podcast about this. But which is it that the internet and social media amplified crazy? That we've always been crazy and now it's just more amplified because now we can see it, or that we were never this crazy and social media made it worse and now we're all crazy because of it.
I think it's a little column A, a little column B.
Right. And I think it's kind of that mixture of like, because once it like we were always kind of crazy, but then once social media came in, it did amplify it, and we can all see it. You know what I mean? So
And
it's kind of a
now
little bit
everybody knows we're crazy.
And
It also allowed them to coalesce.
yes.
yeah, find each other.
Yeah. And I
Crazy,
think
yeah.
and I think then it amplified the subtle ADHD of like human nature and basically all turned us into having the attention spans of a fucking gnat.
Yeah.
So we go crazy and then we get squirrel. And then we go crazy on the squirrel and then shiny object. And just whatever. We never get a chance to run through the whole process that we normally would have and then just go back to normal.
And it never ends. It never ends too, because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, even if you ignore something and then, the crazy mob moves on to the next thing, eventually someone in the crazy mob is going to go, hey, but what about, he was Akira Yoshida. He was using a Japanese pen name 20 years ago. And then they'll stir up 20 or so more crazies and it'll be a thing again for a little while. It's like nothing ever goes away because of social media.
Well, I think at some points it's like a TV show that goes into reruns at partway through the season because they had to pause production for some reason because like an actor got pregnant or got sick and then they just re-air a previous episode. And that is our social media and our entire news cycle now. We rerun the news at this point. Like we're like, hey, and remember the thing that happened a year ago that nothing has changed about? Let's start that all over.
Yeah, it's like it's the people that need the attention, that have nothing else going on in their lives. They wake up and they're like, oh, there's nothing new to be outraged about today. There's nothing new for me to be offended about. Let me go back through my offense Rolodex and find an old article that I can rerun, and sure enough, it's, like I just saw somebody the other day that was like, oh, I just realized that Robert Downey Jr. did blackface in Tropic Thunder. How did I not know about this? We need to cancel it.
Because you live under a rock,
and it's
or
like,
you're a liar.
You haven't heard about it because your attention span, first of all, you have no sense of history. You're another one of these dumb people that thinks history started 10 minutes ago. You have no knowledge of film, no knowledge of cinema, no knowledge of what came in the past. Look, when I was a kid, I was way past the point of Dark Shadows being on TV. I still knew what it was. Yes. For some reason, I think, and maybe it was just the effect of media not being as splintered. But, I talked to people like, I had a friend who, when I met her, she was like barely 30, but like she knew like all these things. It was just because she had older brothers. And so I thought she was much older when I met her because she knew all this stuff. But it was because her brothers were into it. And so as a kid, she was into it, even though it wasn't, Thundercats was over. But, but she was running around with a Thundercats sword.
I mean, I grew up in the era of the 80s where there were still local and regional TV channels.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a lot of stuff. Like, I'm only 46, but I know what Get Smart is.
Yeah, and we
the original,
we all saw
the original
Batman,
Gilligan's Island,
the 60s
and
Batman show. We're all
60s Batman. Even a lot of the cartoons I watched, other than what was on Saturday mornings. I grew up with Super Friends. That was a good,
Yeah, so get off of TikTok and learn some things.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember that the world existed before you were fucking born. We at least had that we had that at least innate knowledge and understanding of shit happened before we got there. Mm-hmm. And we weren't like I think what it is it brings out especially the narcissism. We've whether we've grown people crazy and brought it to light or just brought it to light, but we have absolutely 110%, I'm certain of it, increase the amount of narcissism in the general public, especially undeserved narcissism. There's deserved narcissism, and then there's undeserved narcissism. And now you got people that are like, socially like a 2. I'm not even talking attractiveness. I'm just talking like personality. They were the motherfuckers we would have shoved in lockers.
Yeah.
That not only do they believe that they are God's gift to the fucking planet, but that history literally started when they were born and nothing before them occurred.
The other thing about the history thing is that because it's that narcissism, but it's also the self-righteousness, because once they find out that there was history 10 minutes before, then they just existed or whatever, they immediately go to, well, we have to change it. You know what I mean? So once they find out that there was history, they're like, well, that's bad. We have to do something about that. We either have to cancel this person or reparations for this thing, or do take down these monuments for this. And so it just becomes this whole, and we see it in comics all the time. And, Aaron, you always say it. It's that, people don't realize that they are standing on the shoulders of giants. And that they have to respect the past. But when people find out what the past is and what history is, they, for some reason, just don't like it. They think that it's inherently evil or racist or bigoted. And so they feel like they have to change it, which is the most self-righteous, pretentious, and narcissistic thing I could think of. And that's why we get the stories that we get. So
it's because society has been so soft. We haven't had we haven't had a real Vietnam that to send these people off to, so that they can, learn how the world actually works. Or, we've just had this period of prosperity. And sure, we've had plenty of wars that, we can, send off and the arms manufacturers profiteer on, and, et cetera, et cetera. But nothing that's really been catastrophic. So, all these people, they come up and they want to be oppressed, but compared to the rest of the world, or large swaths of people in the world, their lives are pretty damn cushy. That they still have to be the victim. Like if you've ever been out of the country, you've ever been anywhere, you've ever seen, like you've ever been to Haiti, or my buddy told me stories about being in Somalia, during the Black Hawk Down incident, and things like that, and all the different places that when you talk to like a soldier, and all the different places they've traveled, and all the different places they've seen, and the way that people think that like this is the worst country on the face of the earth. It's like, you think that like South Africa is a post-racial paradise? You think Canada is a post-racial paradise? There's like, no, people are still people. They're still human beings.
The closest we got to that was the 1990s. You insignificant fuck.
Yeah, the 90s seemed to be like super dope.
It really was.
Depending on what your age bracket was.
Well,
that's fair. I was a youngin'.
That's not just nostalgia. Like, the 90s had its problems, but for the most part, like, you didn't think, like, I was in a supermarket today, and as I walked down the aisle, I registered the races of the people that were in the aisle.
Yeah.
I would have never done that in the 90s. It would never even have occurred to me. But everything is so hyper politicized that like my brain did it automatically, and it's not because my brain wants to do it. It's because the media is telling me constantly to look for these things, and it gets ingrained in your head. And now, like, you're categorizing people, and I had to stop myself and go, stop! What are you doing? Stop it! Don't let him in! Don't let him in! Don't let him do this.
Yeah. And the whole thing with like all the narcissistic morons that don't believe, that look at history as everything is bad, it must be changed. I mean, we're seeing it with fucking books right now, like Roald Dahl getting and Agatha Christie getting retcon. I'm waiting for them to unironically use a sensitivity reader on 1984 at this point. Like, seriously, when's that happening? We need it. Like, I need to see that happen during my lifetime, just so I can realize how intellectually devoid of any sort of competency these people are.
When are we getting the sensitivity edit of Roots?
Oh, well, hey,
when are we
getting the the one where it admits that it's an entirely fabricated story.
Ooh, yeah,
Because it's an entirely fabricated story.
Yeah. Yeah, but still, like an impactful movie that you could never do that today. Like even look at the Woman King. You know, they went and they do that movie, and what they have to do is because they want to make this Woman King heroic, they have to kind of fudge all the slavery,
all the details,
all the actual historical details, and it's unbelievable, and it just. Those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. And, we keep going back to that 1984 quote. There's just an ever present, there's no past, there's no future. Just everything's always the present. We've rewritten every book.
Well, look at John Ridley. John Ridley is arguably one of the worst writers at DC and Marvel right now. And where did he come from? 10 Years a Slave. He did that film 10 Years a Slave. So it's like, of course we're going to get the drivel that he's pushing out on comic books right now. But yeah, that's another movie that there's this weird fascination with leftist Hollywood where they just want to see these slave movies, and it's very odd. I don't understand it. But like, I know a lot of my friends that were in the Marine Corps that were Black or Hispanic, and they're like, I wouldn't go watch that. It's fucking weird. But
yeah,
I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of kind of the commentary of Get Out, where it's here's these white liberals fetishizing, fetishizing slavery, fetishizing black men. There's like some real undertones in there that kind of like lean into that. And when you kind of look around Hollywood, they really do. They both seem to fear black masculinity and want to downplay it, but then they also like fetishize black masculinity, and it's such a weird dichotomy. I mean, you have to get somebody who's more versed, I guess, culturally in these things than I to really comment on. But
we can always go with that Root article that straight black men are the white people of black people, which is still one of my the funniest news articles headlines that I've ever read. It made my head hurt trying to understand it.
Poor Aaron is trying to, realize what you just said. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable because it's the Oppression Olympics, and in that, on that stage of the Oppression Olympics, black men fall right next to white men. Unfortunately,
they're still men. They're still straight men.
Yeah,
well,
they're straight and they're men.
Yeah. Victoria Alonso, how many people called it that after she got fired, she was going to pull out the oppression card? I'm a minority. I'm a lesbian. It's like, you also cost the company how many hundreds of millions of dollars
and ruined their relationships with numerous VFX houses, apparently. And
and directors and writers, although partially that was Kevin Feige and mostly Disney and Bob Chapek deciding to fuck Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. Also, them jumping the gun with the James Gunn allegations. Because he was supposed to be the architect of the whole multiverse saga, apparently, and then they cut ties with him because to an extent, I do understand that. Like, you got a bunch of these jokes that are coming forward on Twitter, and you're like, oh no, we don't know if some story's going to come out. Like, what if tomorrow some kids come out and say that, somebody comes out and says that he molested them? We want to get in front of that. But at the same time, it's all reactionary. You screwed yourselves with Johnny Depp. Turned out Amber Heard was insane. You screwed yourself with James Gunn, and now he's over working for DC, and you guys have a failure of a Phase 4 and going into Phase 5 with all the momentum of Phase 4. With their
villain still I think still convicted or not convicted, but
charged.
Thank you.
Yeah, haven't got no trial yet. Yeah. So yeah, and it's like, and that may be, and I understand they're taking a wait and see approach there. And some people are saying like, well, it's because he's black that they're taking the wait and see approach because he get special privileges. I don't necessarily think it's that. I think that maybe they kind of like realize that we've jumped the gun twice now, and maybe we just need to kind of let things play out.
Third time's a charm. You never know. I don't know.
Yeah, but if it comes out that he gets convicted of this, or that he did actually assault this woman.
Yeah.
Whether she has a text that says it was my fault or not. How many times do we see that where victims are like, no, officer, it was my fault. I made him mad. I didn't have dinner ready. It was my fault. That's classic abuse behavior. So, at this point, we don't know. We don't know which way it's going to go. So.
I'd like to believe he didn't do it, so I'm gonna go with that. I don't think it helped. I don't think it hurt him, the fact that he was black. And I think it was a combination of he's black plus we've screwed up twice now. So maybe, especially, and you know what? The blowback, if it turns out he is innocent and we didn't take the wait and see approach, will actually be even worse than the James Gunn and the Johnny Depp. I mean, at least from a PR standpoint, they're looking at it like, well, the blowback.
Hopefully they know now that, when you look at Twitter and you see, like, you just take like Hogwarts Legacy and all the vitriol that was being directed against that, and it came out and it just broke records and it made all kinds of money. And so now you've like, I think companies, even ones that are as slow on the uptake as Disney is in its current iteration, I think they're starting to realize Twitter doesn't really have any power unless you allow it to. So if you just ignore Twitter, there's nothing they can do. They can scream and they can foam, but at the end of the day, it's maybe 100 people with a bunch of sock puppet accounts, working themselves up. And it doesn't actually result in any financial loss. But on the other hand, what they're going to be learning is you hire Dylan Mulvaney to be your spokesperson, and you're going to lose a lot of money.
I always have to remind myself whenever I'm on Twitter, if I'm on there for too long, or if I ever begin to see a mood change while I'm on Twitter, I either have to click off of it or I have to remind myself it's not real. Yes. It is not real. It is 100% a fake persona. It is a fabrication of real life, and it is all just so
just finishing up a live stream.
Oh, Aaron, I think you're still
what are you doing?
You're unmuted, sir.
Let's see. Oh, did he mute himself? No. Imperatus, you may actually be able to mute him if you can.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Cool. Hopefully I can realize done.
I shot a message in the private chat. Just like, you turned off your camera, but not your mic, sir.
If they can't see me, they can't hear me. But it's Twitter's definitely an odd reality that does not exist. Fortunately, because
thankfully,
it would be pretty dark if that were actually how reality was like. But oh well.
I refuse to allow Twitter to get under my skin at all. I'm still in fire and forget mode whenever it comes to tweeting. So
there you go.
And that's I just smart. Laugh at people that get upset about it.
My feeling is like, if you come at me and you're like, hey, you said this thing 7 years ago, I'll go, oh, I did, didn't I? Oh man, what an asshole I was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm so much better now. In 7 years, I'll be looking back right now and saying what an asshole I was.
And you know what? My response to that is, I don't remember what I said 7 minutes ago.
There you go.
I don't remember what I did 7 minutes ago. Yeah, probably head trauma.
You want to explain yourself?
What?
I was like,
what the fuck kind of question is that?
Well, one, he's my boss, so he knows what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
And two, it's like we're both off on that day. I'm like, so where do you want to go to eat? Because he's a good friend of mine as well. And then he's like, oh, there's this new Korean barbecue place. So I was like, well, all right, sounds good to me.
That's funny. The second Wednesday after Easter, it's like so specific, and it's not like an actual day.
Going out of town, so
but it's so specific yet so ridiculously random.
Yeah.
What are you doing at 9 o'clock on November 4th?
Well, at least, yeah.
I'm doing this.
Probably.
My best friend's niece is getting married this Saturday, and I forgot to clear my schedule on Saturday because I was only told the date once.
Oh yeah.
Oh yep.
It's like, unless you force me to physically put it in my calendar, with reminders, I'm not going to remember it. Like, Max and I are going to do something later this month. We're going to go. We're talking about doing a road trip, going meeting up with some YouTubers in Vegas, and I'm going to have to ask him, in the next day or two, what days?
What's the date again?
Yeah. like I mean, seriously, when somebody asks me a question like that, I'm like, do I get a prize if I if I guess correctly, like, am I supposed to guess like exactly what I'm going to be doing at that time?
Do you know what I'll be doing?
Like, yeah, do you? Because I mean, like, if you do, I have other questions about the future that are much more pertinent than what I'm going to be doing on some random date at a random time.
It's like, hey, what are you doing next Wednesday? And you're like, I don't know. And they're like, I do. You're dying. Like, oh my god.
Thank you.
Well, normally when my boss asks that question, it's usually working. Yeah, you are. Oh, all right.
See you there.
Bummer.
Like, is this a pop quiz? Like, am I just supposed to remember my schedule? I put it in my phone, bitch.
You should start doing that to people, Aaron. Like people that come into the shop and just be like, "You got any fun plans this weekend?" And they're like, "No, not really. I don't think so." And you're like, "I know you do." Or like, I know you have something planned on Sunday." And they're like, "What?"
or you doing it? What are you doing this weekend? They're like, they'll probably just hang around the house. And I'm gonna be like,
no, you're not.
No. You probably
Unfortunately, you won't be.
I'd start making the funeral arrangements now.
Well, I have like tarot cards laid out in front of me.
You should call your.
Got any outstanding social debts you want to take care of? You might want to do it in the next couple days.
That's like I love the old I say old, the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall from like the early 2000s, and Paul Rudd's character, he's trying to determine the Hawaiian name of Peter, who's like the protagonist, and he's doing this with his name and with his hand, and he's like Pipiopi, and just like names him some random name, and he's like, "You're now Pipiopi" or something. So yeah, you should just start waving your hand whenever someone comes in, and just be like, "Yeah, what are you doing this Sunday?" Well, speaking of what am I doing this later this week, I actually have to go because I gotta make a video for some merch. So I finally got the store up, so I'm gonna hopefully.
I figured it was for your OnlyFans content, sir.
Ooh, well,
MVPs, OnlyFans, ASMR.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the MVP lounge. Because you have to come back in order to, like, you have to go into the back lounge behind the nice,
The MVP,
fabric curtain.
MVP IP room.
MVIPP room. Yeah.
I should wrap up too, guys.
Yeah, it's about.
I think it's about
Oh, okay.
we never got to anything Spider-Man.
No.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Shoot.
All of mine and Doc streams have gone like this. That's why I said I think going forward. I think just going forward is like Skippy, because at first I was like, I have some specific topics, and that didn't work. I was like, all right, maybe we'll just do a general topic and we'll just weave some conversation in.
That didn't work.
So now it's just going to be like, I'm just going to get a bunch of guys together that like talking about comics, whatever the case may be, and just go from there.
This is what what Wes's stream would turn into if Wes wasn't like militant about keeping us on topic.
Yeah.
Guys, we have to get to our next topic.
I love the man for that. Like,
oh yeah, he's very good about that.
What's funny is he gets so much shit in the comments for like him cutting me off, like when we do our like worst of the week video or like a review or like on some article. They're like, why don't you just let Doc go? And he's like, because he'll never shut the fuck up if I do.
I'm just waiting for the time when Wes cuts one of you guys off and someone in the comments is like, dude, you've only been talking about the topic for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're jumping the gun a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's because Wes can see the train derail. Like, you can see the area up ahead, and he just lets it keep going where it'll derail.
Yeah,
and it's just like, let's just hit the breaker and.
it's his fucking military intel. What was he? Air Force intelligence.
Intel.
He was definitely CIA. And yeah. It's his intel background that he's like, I see exactly where this shit is going, and I'm putting a stop to it right the fuck now.
it also like I can just see the super chats piling up in like in the corner there, and I'm like, oh boy, we got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
We're still like just starting a new topic, and it's like, fuck, how are we gonna get all this? So yeah, it's pretty funny, but I mean, someone's got to do it, right? So
Yeah.
I always love when he gets a super chat that like is just a complete non sequitur, and then he just goes, "All right."
It's like yeah, when what's his name, Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber, he gets the big gulps, and he's like, big gulps, huh? Well, see you later, and just walks away. It's like, yeah, all right.
Oh, I love doing these kind of streams. They are a great like kind of break from a more rigid structure with actual topics mapped out, and they're just wherever the fuck this is bar conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This is nerdy bar conversation. If we could start a bar that also sold comic books, this is what the fucking conversation would be like with the goddamn bartender.
This is what I always like when you would have like a comic book store and they've got like a panel area. So like there'd just be people shopping and you'd be doing a panel up there and there'd be some seating and people would like gather around, and that's always what these kind of live streams feel like. They're like better, and I think this is why like another reason that you're seeing like comic book panel attendance kind of dip. Yeah, it's because, you know, when you go to one of those, you're getting a bunch of corporate shills that are just going to talk about, you know, the things that they have to talk about, and it's limited to an hour, so everybody's got to like kind of cram and hurry up, and there's someone in the back going like this, and you know, when you do it on YouTube, you just get to freeform it and have a good time.
It reminds me of the unconference format. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it from both like kind of the corporate world as well as some of. I'm more familiar with it from weirdo alternative lifestyle sector of the world, where basically it's just do what you want and people will gather. It kind of that like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, and sometimes literally. And they, you know, you just. And it's like the rule of 2 feet. If you're not within 2 feet of the presenter and you're not getting anything out of it, you use your 2 feet and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's why I really like Drinker's Open Bar today. I think he had a great panel on. I've really been enjoying those streams. The Real BBC has been good recently, and our Sunday night SmackDowns have been a lot of fun because they follow that same format of like, what would happen if you got all these fuckers, all these great dudes with such great ideas and conversation that needs to be heard, but there's no real time constraint. There's no real rigidity. Yeah.
There's no rigidity to the structure.
Yeah. There you go. And you just let these guys free flow, and those are some of the most fun streams. And you can really, I mean, you can listen to them while you're driving. You can listen to them while you're doing work, anything. So that format I've really come to enjoy a lot, because you learn so much, and you just get some really great insight on a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like the rotating guest format that a lot of those shows have. You know, I just find myself like whenever I'm just like working around the house, I'll just put on one of those. I don't even go to regular like network TV or you know, even like not really interested in shows that much anymore. Like even wrestling, I just catch recaps. I'll watch Simon Miller tell me what happened on Raw before I'll watch Raw. You know, I'm like, at least he's excited about it.
Yes, he's that bald British guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. I was like, I can't help but like him. Like, you know, he's enthusiastic and he tells you what's up. And you know, I like his whole format with this. I don't think it's an up; it gets the golden up. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not watching Mandalorian. I'm not watching Star Trek. I'm not watching the Gotham Knights show, I think is what it was. Like,
I don't think anyone was. That's the problem.
Yeah, true.
It did worse than Batwoman.
Oh, that's really bad. I mean, but
people
yeah,
people are just burnt out on bad superhero stuff.
And I mean, like, I guess because I was going to say, like, Mandalorian, I know a lot of people are watching Mando, but I come to YouTube for my TV shows. So to like kind
Yeah.
of piggyback off of what you were saying, I don't have TV. I don't really watch. Like, I go down to the bar. I walk to the bar if I want to watch a hockey game or something. If I want to see a show, fuck, I'm not going to Disney or Netflix or anything like that. I'm going to YouTube because there's a plethora of like really great material that I find way more interesting than Mando season 3, you know? So yeah, my TV is YouTube, and I think it will become that if it hasn't already.
I mean, Monday nights, 9:00, I listen to, I'm usually not watching, I'm just lurking and listening, but comic divisions, yelling at parts cars, or his Thursday night show, I'll probably listen to tomorrow while I'm at work.
There you go.
Or Razor Fist streams. You know, another channel I follow is the Black Pants Legion. If you're into like strategy games and BattleTech lore, text the Black Pants, and it's entertaining as hell,
dude. Hell yeah.
This guy's the only person I've ever heard to refer to his artillery as God's paintbrush.
Ooh, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I should have used that. So I don't know if you. It's kind of like the funny joke with Gary, where Gary's like, you know, I used to own a comic shop. I'll always say like, oh, you know, I was in the Marine Corps,
right?
But my job was artillery, and fuck, I should have used that. That's amazing. We would always say we turn things to pink mist, and so yeah, it's like painting.
He was playing an older first-person shooter with the guys in his group, the Black Pants Legion, and he dumped an artillery strike somewhere, and he's just cackling like a madman. He's like, "Oh yeah, God's paintbrush at work."
I love it. We said God's gun, but never God's paintbrush. But I like that more. It sounds
because it makes people think for a second, and they just go, "Oh,"
and they go, "Oh yeah." It's one of those things that you go,
"Yeah,
oh, I get it." Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I will say let's cut this off because otherwise, I think we'll just all end up talking.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, it's great. It's fine. Max, Aaron, you guys are definitely added to the list for whenever I'm doing this. You guys will get an invite if you can make it. Great. If not, you know, life is what it is. And want to thank everybody for hanging out in the chat. Joe, have fun with your game stream later. I'll probably do a little bit of gaming myself tonight. It's probably pretty much my only hobby other than building Gundams. Whatever.
Hey, Imperatus, I added you to our kind of little green room that we always use to bullshit about comics, and
right on.
That Aaron and I are in. You know what? I'm inviting MVP too. I don't know if you're in.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
No, I don't think he is.
Well, then you know what that means, Doc. I will invite you to my OnlyFans VIP lounge. So, no.
Ooh.
You gotta hand out some memberships.
Doc's like, no, thanks. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, and I could, if you ever did that, I could foresee you getting certain females in the fellowship to be first in line for the payment process.
There was always an old there's an old comic called Basic Instructions, and one of it was like, before the internet, like how you had to find things out was you had to actually ask people, and it was like and so these guys got like a song lyric in his head, and he just like walks up to this girl and he's like, hey, what is this? Do you really want to see me crawl? And she goes, creepy and weird. Like, so then he's on the internet and he's looking for it, and it's like a song. Like, he's like, what song is that? And he punches in. He punches in. Do you want to see me crawl? And he's like, oh God, that's not what I expected. Save to favorites.
That's funny. I like that. And bookmark. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, gents, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the conversation.
All right. Later, brothers.
Later, guys. Dude.